rhythm take control. We're gonna dance like we don't care. Keep on popping bottles like we're millionaires. Yeah, we're just getting started. Living for the weekend. Shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with the heavy beat. Hit me with that future sound. It's time to let go. We're not going home. This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down. This is where the beat goes down. Let's make this night unforgettable. Oh, making memories we won't recall. One more song is never enough. We ain't gonna stop when the sun comes up. Put the night on replay, 'cause we never wanna lose this rush. Oh no, shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. I don't wanna stop right now. All I need is a drum with the heavy beat. Hit me with that future sound. It's time to let go. We're not going home. This feeling I can't live without. So shame on me, I'm a fool for the melody. This is our party, and this is where the beat goes down. This is where the beat goes down. This is where the beat goes down. This is where the beat goes.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to Saturday. So we are getting started this morning with another grant presentation. So let me introduce to you Mary Catherine Shallett. Mary Catherine is a registered dietitian, and she is the director of the undergraduate nutrition program at the University of Memphis. Go Tigers. She leads an innovative practice-based education with special focus on culinary medicine. Under her leadership, the Tiger Food Lab has expanded its reach and impact, and the University of Memphis was selected as part of the 2025 class of organizational inductees into the Teaching Kitchen Collaborative, a global network of institutions advancing hands-on culinary education as a core strategy for improving health, nutrition, and disease prevention. Today, as nutrition and culinary medicine take center stage in conversations around health, performance, and disease prevention, Mary Catherine's work sits at the leading edge of this movement. She's among the first researchers to explore the impact of culinary medicine specifically within athletic populations, particularly with college athletes. Because of her work with Tiger Bites, Mary Catherine was selected as a 2026-2027 Teaching Kitchen Collaborative Research Fellow. And presenting with her today is Lauren Johnson, a senior nutrition student at the University of Memphis, who was instrumental in the implementation of the Tiger Bites program. And this is their second grant presentation here as part of the American Academic Symposium. So help me welcome Mary Catherine and Lauren.
All right. Lauren, I'm going to let you do that while I... Well, thank you so much for having us. We are so thrilled to be here and to get to share with you a little bit of the work that we've been doing in Memphis. It is deeply important to me as an educator that the skills and the things that we're teaching are transferable into that next phase of life. And I feel like knowing how to fuel yourself for health and well-being is an important skill, regardless of if you're an athlete or you're just a person trying to prevent chronic disease. Just a person trying to prevent. That's a big deal. And so I am really proud of the work that we've been doing, and I'm really excited to share it. I would love to see work like this being done all over the place. So thank you so much, Linda, for that introduction. I appreciate that, and thank you to the American for the support for our work. Lauren is here with me today. Lauren is one of my senior undergraduate students, and I think you will see as we go through our presentation today how instrumental she has been in the implementation. This is Lauren's first research presentation to give, and she's very nervous, and so she's going to do a fantastic job. But based on, you know, maybe some words that we got yesterday, I would like to invite both of us to take a second, and maybe everyone in here. It was a long day yesterday. Everybody's going back home today. Just take a second. Let's be present. Take a deep breath. I'm telling this to myself. We're here in this moment, learning from each other, and excited to share with you some of the things that we've been working on.
So I like to start off all of my presentations with a little bit of interaction. So I'm going to ask you a question. Raise your hand if you care about recovering faster, performing better, and not feeling exhausted the next day. Every hand went up. Yep, awesome. Thank you. Now, keep your hand up if you feel completely confident about what to eat after practice to actually make that happen. Oop, I don't see any hands. That right there is exactly why we created this program, Tiger Bites.
So we want to start off with some scary statistics. Did you know that mild dehydration, as little as 1 to 2%, has been shown to impair your reaction time, decision-making, and endurance performance? Those three things feel pretty important as a high-level athlete.
Number 2, delaying post-workout nutrition by just 2 hours can significantly reduce muscle glycogen replenishment and recovery. If you don't know what muscle glycogen is, that is the energy within your muscles. So this is saying if you don't eat within 2 hours of your workout, the energy in your muscles is depleted. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a problem to me.
So I think a lot of us understand that nutrition is important for our performance, and maybe we're in a place where we have a nutrition team. We've got fueling stations in our facilities. Maybe we have a heavy lift and someone gives us a smoothie or they give us some snacks. And so we're being delivered the nutrients that we need after our workout, but there's a bit of a gap there. We have the nutrition recommendations. Some of you all may have dining hall access. That's not something that we have at our institution. In our institution, all of our student athletes are responsible for fueling themselves outside of the fueling stations, and that may be the same for some of you all here. But what we found is we lack the practical skills and the confidence to translate that into real life choices. So when you are given a red card and you have to go and actually decide what to eat, or you're going to the grocery store, it's a little bit scary to try and purchase those things and then make the things at home that will help to enhance your athletic performance. So our problem here is not that we don't necessarily have the knowledge. The problem is that knowledge does not equal behavior change.
And so we thought, what if we could teach all of you how to fuel yourselves, not just tell you what to eat? Because I can scream at you nutrition information until I'm blue in the face, but it's not going to matter if you don't actually know how to use and apply that information into your day-to-day life. And that's where we end up with this.
So this is a mouthful, but this is the title of our project, The Efficacy of Combining Sports-Specific Digital Media Messaging with Applied Performance Nutrition Education in a University Teaching Kitchen. So those of you who have been, maybe have heard us speak on this program before, we have a 6-week hands-on applied nutrition intervention, which is basically a series of performance nutrition-focused cooking classes. And that has been shown to be effective. But we thought, you know, when we do that, we meet once a week for 6 weeks, but there's no touch points between those classes. So what if we added a little bit of a digital component to help increase the interactions that we have with our student athletes? So that gets us to kind of how we went about creating this program. So we wanted to do the teaching kitchen plus digital media messaging. We collected 2 surveys. We had both a culinary confidence survey and an athlete approach to food and nutrition survey. We also collected 3-day food diaries and anthropometric measurements, including height, weight. We used bioimpedance analysis to measure lean body mass and fat mass, and we also calculated a waist to hip ratio. And if you're not familiar with that measure, what that does is give us an idea of your risk of developing cardiometabolic complications later in life. So we did both of these, or all of these measures, both pre-intervention and then immediately post-intervention. It was a mixed methods approach. We had both quantitative and qualitative data. Our quantitative data was our surveys and our anthropometrics, and then our qualitative were our food diaries and our participant feedback.
So this is where I come into play with the expanding beyond the kitchen digital media integration. So why digital media? Well, most of you are on your phones. You're going to leave here today, go to the airport, you're going to be scrolling TikTok, Instagram, keeping up with your Snapchat streaks, because I know I will be. And so we thought, you're already going to be on your phone. So I'm going to be on your phone also, because we want to better connect with you all. This is how you receive a lot of your information, whether that be nutrition or otherwise. So we wanted to bridge that gap and come to you. We're meeting you where you are to better connect and enhance engagement and outcomes. We thought, it's not enough for us to just tell you all of this information one night a week on Thursday. We wanted to really kind of spam your phone with all of this information because I want it to stick. It's really important. So how we did this, we did content delivery every 3 times per week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And like I said, those classes are on Thursday nights. And we had an equal focus on both the kitchen portion and also the digital media messaging. And it was built around weekly session topics. So I would look at the lesson plan for that week, pull what I thought was important, and create it into a fun graphic or video to disseminate to our athletes.
So in addition to the digital media, we also had those surveys that I mentioned. So we had both culinary confidence and then our athlete approach to cooking and nutrition. And our culinary confidence survey, we looked across 3 different domains. We were evaluating cooking habits. So what are you already doing? Your eating habits and your nutrition knowledge. We had 30 total questions. We asked student athletes to respond on a sliding scale of 0 to 100. And I should say this was a digital-based, it was a Qualtrics survey, and so student athletes took these surveys on their computer or with our post-intervention, they scanned a QR code and then took the survey on their phone. So you just slid a bar to indicate how much you agreed, never or always, and we did this both pre and post-intervention. What we were looking for was changes in confidence over time. Of course, we're researchers, so we're trying to see if there's any statistically significant improvements. And then we also wanted to know, because it's a relatively short period of time and it's a relatively small sample size, so we wanted to see if there were any emerging trends in skill development that maybe they weren't necessarily statistically significant, but were we moving in the right direction. And then our next survey was our athlete approach to cooking and nutrition. And here we measured information across 2 domains. We looked at attitudes towards cooking, and then we looked at nutrition behaviors. We asked students to strongly agree or strongly disagree, so we had a 5-point scale that they were evaluating the questions on, and again, this was done pre and post-intervention. In addition to the questions that were on the pre-intervention survey, we also asked some additional asked for some additional information post-intervention. We provided some open-ended feedback opportunities where we wanted to know from each individual student athlete, what was your key takeaway from this experience? And then we also asked questions about engagement with our digital content. So we wanted to know from the student athletes themselves, did you appreciate the content? Did it resonate with you? What did you like the most? What would you like to see more of in the future? And then you can see in this little image on the screen here, we learned very early on in this project that we could make wonderful recipes in class, but if our student athletes didn't have the cooking equipment at home to replicate those recipes, it was really difficult. And so what we started doing was providing all of our participating student athletes with we call it our Getting Started cooking bag. And in that tote bag, you'll find a cutting board and a sheet pan and a frying pan and spatulas and measuring cups and measuring spoons and a chef's knife. I'm not sure if we were allowed to give out all of those chef's knives, but we did it anyway. We just said, don't pull it out on campus. So we we're able to provide that equipment for our student athletes so that they could go home and then immediately replicate some of the things we did in class. And you'll see a little bit of that later on.
In addition to the surveys, we also collected food diaries, so athletes tracked their intake for 3 days pre and post intervention, and this included anything they put into their mouths. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, supplements, hydration intake, and the context included was, where did you eat this meal? How much of the meal did you have? The preparation method, was it fried? Was it grilled? Was it baked? Was it roasted? All of the things. The training day type, were you having a lift day? Was it a light jog day? Was it a competition day? And hunger and fullness cues. We had one program, 2 approaches. So in the fall, we had a team-based approach. We did women's basketball. We had 12 athletes, and it was a mandatory team event. So this did make a difference in how these athletes interacted with this program. Because if your coach says, hey, girl, I need you to be here every week, Thursday night, 5:30, you're going to have a different experience versus if this is something that you signed up willingly to do. Because you're being told to be there. I mean, Tiger Bites is fun regardless, but it does have a difference on the outcomes. And then most recently, we did the opt-in mixed sport. That was 15 athletes, voluntary participation. So we had a sign-up sheet, sent it out to the athletics department, and anybody who saw it and said, I have a free Thursday night and I want a free meal, was able to sign up. So we had a mix of student athletes from rifle, soccer, track and field, golf, anything you could possibly think of, we probably had it. Tennis, and then even within our track and field, we had throwers and different events within that sport.
So our program is 6 weeks in length. Weeks 1 through 5 are cooking and nutrition education, and we'll go over what we cover in each of those weeks. But each week has a targeted culinary skill as well as a targeted performance nutrition objective. And then in our final week, our finale, we call it our Master Chef Cooking Competition, where we ask the student athletes to take all of the information that they've learned in the series and then actually show us your mastery of these skills. So they have to choose a recipe that is going to benefit their athletic performance. They have to make it in class, and then they present it to a panel of judges who are usually made up of athletics administration or coaching staff, people that the student athletes will know, who come in. They present their dishes to our panel of judges. They have to they're judged on the taste, they're judged on the appearance of the dish, they're judged on the overall quantity, and then also they're judged on their nutrition justification, which to me is the most important part. They need to be able to say, what is it about this meal that's going to benefit my athletic performance? In addition to that, we have digital media messaging, which Lauren has gone over, but you'll hear a lot more about. And then the final pillar of this program is a one-on-one counseling appointment between a dietitian and the individual student athlete. A lot of you all may have opportunities to meet with a dietitian one-on-one. Our student athletes do, but sometimes you don't, unless it's part of a program, you don't necessarily think, well, I want to go ask this question to my dietitian. And so this was kind of forcing people to participate in that, help them to provide the space to ask questions that they might not have been comfortable asking in a group setting.
Now we'll go into the implementation of this program. But before we do that, look at our beautiful food lab. Isn't she gorgeous? She is fully equipped with everything you could possibly need and then some. We have KitchenAid stand mixers, an industrial washing station in the back, muffin tins, sheet pans, everything. And then the food lab is also equipped with audio and visual equipment. So there's cameras and microphones. So no matter where you are in the room, you are able to see and hear what is going on to aid in your education and instruction. And then let's get into practice and action. What did these 6 weeks actually look like? So week 1 was an introduction to the space. We're orienting them. The food lab is a pretty big area and there's lots of different drawers, so it's easy to get lost. So teaching them where everything is, knife skills, how to hold a knife, because you would think that's pretty intuitive, but there are safe ways to do it, and we don't want to cut your finger because that's a liability. Safety and sanitation, so internal cooking temperatures. We have red cutting boards, we have white cutting boards, keeping it separate because no one wants food poisoning. I've had it before. It's not a fun time. Week 2 is the importance of iron and protein. So for this, we made beef zucchini meatballs, and we showed them how easy it is to customize a recipe that's pretty quick to make. Week 3, the role of antioxidants in prevention and recovery. So we did tart cherry mocktails, which you do have a recipe card for in your little folders. And then week 4 was the breakfast of champions. So we made blueberry muffins and omelets, showing them how easy it is to customize something to fit your protein need or carbohydrate needs for that day. Week 5, Omega Power, exploring the role of omega-3s. We made chili lime salmon tacos, talking about how important omega-3 is to your athletic performance and your overall health. And week 6 was the finale that Mrs. Schallert talked about. And we even have a video. She pretty much explained what our finale looks like. They have an hour to prepare a dish, and we run a strict program, so they have an hour. And then to make matters worse, I'm going up to them with a camera, asking interview questions. How did you like Tiger Bites? Do you think you're gonna win? It's a fun time, but the teams are judged on those 4 different criteria because we want it to look good, taste good, and explain what you've learned because that's why we're here. So I'm gonna stop talking and I'll play the video.
First runner-up goes.
What was the point difference? It was staged from the beginning.
Hi, we're here with the women's basketball team, and this is their final championship. What's your name?
Bailey Gilmore. Maya Smith.
What are you guys making tonight?
Making creamy chicken and shrimp pasta.
What's the key nutrient in shrimp? Do you think you're gonna win tonight?
For sure, for sure.
How are we feeling on time? Do we think we're gonna finish this dish in time?
Oh, for sure.
Is this gonna be the best recipe?
Of course.
What's your favorite thing that you've learned in the Tiger Bites program?
Probably just how to like balance post-workout recovery and fueling, like doing it effectively.
Excited to see who wins.
We ate this down. I don't know about everybody else, but we ate down.
So what's going on over here with the string cheese? Oh.
Started with this, you know? Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned steak has protein. Why is that important? Why do we need protein?
You mean why? Protein is like the most important thing.
It's just the best thing ever.
Oh my gosh, guys, they paid attention. So you're making salmon. Do you know what the internal temperature needs to be? 145!
145.
After the hour's up, the athletes plate their recipes and present it to the judges.
We made stuffed chicken and asparagus, has phosphorus in it, so it helps build bone and muscle tissue.
So the asparagus contains fiber, and we all know why we need fiber. You gotta make sure everything goes through clean after your meal. It makes you stay fuller longer, so it's gonna sustain you. Enjoy! Bonjour, oui, oui!
We present to y'all creamy Cajun pasta.
First runner-up goes to Corey and Jay.
What I said! Thank you!
Bailey, how are you feeling after cinching this win?
We're not surprised, honestly. We expected this, but it's just a great feeling to finally have to go this win.
But as you can see, it's a great time. They have a fun time. And if you noticed, Jordan was in that video because she is on our women's basketball team and she was one of the panelists yesterday. And so these are an example of the recipe graphics that we have. Some of them are included within the folder that you received at the start of the conference. Week 1, we did chicken fajita wraps, focusing on knife skills, so teaching them how to use that knife and getting comfortable cutting things like bell peppers, onions, and whatever else they wanted to add to their fajita. The Roar and Restore mocktail was week 3, eating the rainbow and enjoying antioxidants. And this is our tart cherry mocktail. It's very delicious. I heard some people talking about tart cherry juice yesterday, so now you have a recipe to make a tart cherry drink, and we made lots of funny jokes about it was like non-alcoholic, and we were really on one that night. And then week 4 was blueberry power muffins, and for this we really focused on upping the protein and learning how to customize a recipe to fit your needs. So if you notice, we used Kodiak cakes as the base, Fairlife milk because it has more protein than other milk for whatever reason, and Greek yogurt within these muffins. And then lights, camera, action, if you'll notice, this is an image from Mrs. Shallard's kitchen. We do not have an industrial filming studio, so we had to make do. This is her kitchen island with a chair on top and a tripod to film these videos. So what videos did we end up making? We did recipe demonstration videos because we make these in class, but what if there's something that you're a little bit confused on, like, I don't remember how to do that, like it was kind of weird, kind of complex. Well, there's a video for it, and anything that you could ever need, there's likely a video for it. We also did educational videos reinforcing those key concepts that I felt were important from the lessons, which were hydration, nutrition facts label, pre and post workout snacks, along with recipe cards, which you just saw, and handouts on the sources of antioxidants, omega-3s, and performance plates. This is one of the videos that we made for chili lime salmon tacos.
Hey athletes, today we're making chili lime tacos and I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. Start by measuring out your seasons. We're using chili powder, cumin, salt, and pepper. Now we're going to quarter our lime, but before we do that, let's talk safe knife handling. This is a chef's knife. It makes cutting quick and easy. Hold it by pinching the blade, none of this silly stuff, and remember, protect your fingers. Season your 4-ounce salmon fillet with your spice mix, add a squeeze of lime juice, and make sure to coat all parts of the salmon. Add those to a baking sheet, then pop it in the oven. It should be set to broil and we'll cook it for about 6 to 8 minutes. While our fish is cooking, let's get to chopping our toppings. This is a red cabbage and we're going to cut it in half.
One eternity later.
Quarter it and remove this part of the cabbage. Now chop away. We'll cut our avocado in half and scoop out the pit. Quarter it and set it aside. Now let's give our cilantro a rough chop. Finally, the avocado mash. Add the avocado, lime juice, cilantro, and seasonings. By now, our salmon should be ready, so let's give it a check on the food thermometer. We want it to say 145 degrees Fahrenheit. We're good, so let's start assembling our tacos. We've shredded our salmon, and now in a warm corn tortilla, we're going to add our avocado mash, salmon, cilantro, red cabbage, a squeeze of lime if you'd like, and that's it. With a little bit of time, we have made a delicious, healthy meal that is rich in omega-3s, protein, and flavor. I hope you enjoy.
So that was a quick demonstration of what it was. It wasn't anything super long because our attention spans are fleeting, so we're trying to keep it short and to the point. And then these were the content creation tools that I relied heavily on. CapCut Pro became my best friend and greatest enemy. We would be at Mrs. Shallard's house for about 4 hours filming content, so that meant I had 4 hours of filming and content to go through and cut down into hopefully a 45-second video if I was lucky. That was a great day. And then if I was a little unlucky or we just had a lot of information to cover, a minute 15 max, because like I said, those attention spans in the gutter. We also used Canva Pro, which I'm sure most of you have some experience with Canva. I pulled out what I thought was important, made a cute graphic, and sent it to our athletes just to really up the engagement with the content that you're learning Thursday nights. And then these were examples of the educational handouts that we made. We have a hydration guide because it's really important when to use water, electrolytes, other sports drink, and an omega-3 graphic. I wanted to make this as practical as possible. If I were to go into Kroger right now and say, oh, we learned about omega-3s in class and they're so cool, but I don't know what they're in. Now you do. It's practical. You can go into Kroger. I can go to the fish aisle and say, oh, I want bumblebee tuna because it's there on the slide, and now you have omega-3s in your diet. And then here is one of our hydration tips videos. We didn't just create content that revolved around food. We wanted practical application. So I went into the grocery store and you'll see what we did.
Hey y'all, not sure when to choose water, electrolytes, or a sports drink? Here's some tips on how to properly fuel your body.
Let's take a trip to the hydration aisle.
Water. Choose her all the time. She is your best friend and is key to keeping you hydrated and ready for practice. Electrolytes. Use these during activity or after for recovery. If you're training in hot weather, sweating a lot, or have an exercise that's between 60 and 90 minutes, you want to add electrolytes to replace those key fluids. Here we have our drink mix electrolytes. These will replace your sodium and potassium, which will keep you from cramping, and they also have a lot of vitamins. Now on to sugary sports drinks, everyone's favorite. Save these for when you have a long, high-intensity workout or a long game that's coming up. These provide you hydration and energy. They will replenish your glucose, electrolytes, and fluids. Bottom line, water for every day, electrolytes when you're sweating hard, sugary drinks for when you need energy and hydration. Remember these tips to stay hydrated and playing great.
So that was our hydration video. You may be like, is she sitting in a grocery cart? Yes, I was. She let me loose in the grocery store and said, have fun, make it engaging. There was at one point where I had somebody pushing me around in the grocery cart, but I thought, that might be that's a bit much. So we kept it simple, but also short, engaging to the information that you needed. and then delivering content that connects. How did we get this content to you? Because I did not create a TikTok account. I didn't create an Instagram account for Tiger Bites. So we needed a way to disseminate that information. Previously, for our team-based approaches, we used Teamworks. Do you have an experience with Teamworks? I figured most people would. That was a less than desirable experience because we did not have control over the information dissemination. We were relying on other people to distribute this content for us, which in theory sounds good, but you know, some things happen, you get busy, you can forget about the content being posted, and that was an issue because this was a big part of this new grant. That's why we got it, because we're adding the digital media messaging, so it's really important that the athletes actually receive the content that we made, and also, I spent a lot of time on it. I want people to see it. So we switched to the Band app, and this was a much better experience. We chose it because we had full control over content delivery. We were able to track engagement, which was a big part of this grant, and it was designed to ensure athletes actually received the content. I know they were getting it because I was sending it, and I saw if they were able to see it, and if I saw that they didn't see it, there's a little button. Notify all 5 people who hadn't seen it, and trust and believe I used it quite frequently. There were key features within this app that made it really conducive to what we were doing with our project. There were chat features, so we were able to have a chat with all of the participants in the group, and it was really fun because they would make the recipe in class, go home, make it at home, take a picture, and send it in the chat. Oh, it made me so excited. I was like, thank you so much. They're actually listening. They're making these things. It's so fun. And when one person posted a recipe in the chat, it encouraged other people to post recipes also. We also had a one-on-one chat. So if somebody said, I like the protein powder we used in class, they could send me a message, and I'd send them exactly what it was. Really quick communication. We were able to organize content into sections, which you'll see a picture of in a second. We were able to send reminders and updates, and there were interactive tools like polls to stay in touch with our group. So here's the Band app in use. On the left, we have the calendar feature. I mean, our classes were every Thursday night at 5:30, so how much did you really need the calendar? I don't know, but it did send you a notification the day before class and 30 minutes before class, so you knew where it was, what time, and what we were doing. This is the feed in the middle. It shows you how the page basically looks. At the top, that's the video of our omelet demonstration video. And in the corner with the eyeball, you can see how many people saw the post. And on the left is the interaction and engagement. Just because somebody wasn't engaging with the content and like putting a like, a thumbs up, or those like big eye emojis, it didn't mean that they weren't seeing it. They were still seeing it, but maybe just less engagement. And then at the bottom of the feed, we have a poll asking who had scheduled their one-on-one appointment with the registered dietitian, because that is a perk of being in this program. And you can see that there's the home tab, events, and albums, and there's even a feature called notices. So if there was important information that we needed them to have, it stayed at the top of the feed, because it's important and we need you to see it, and sometimes it can get lost in everything else. And then finally, we have the album section, which was really nice. Our athletes are always going to have access to this specific band. I don't know about you, but I've been on TikTok and I've saved recipe videos, and then I save like 50 other videos and I can never find it. Well, this isn't going to be an issue for them because they can always go back to this albums tab, go to recipes and say, oh, I really loved Lauren's Mediterranean bowls because that was my recipe. They can go click it, see it, and make it for themselves. They also have the handouts, so if they need to find something about hydration or antioxidants or any other thing, they're able to easily find that, the cooking demos, class pictures, and performance plates. Now, on to our results.
So we've outlined our program for you. We've told you about all that we did. And so now we should tell you, did it work or not? And we're really excited to say that it did work. So as we look here, this is just our anthropometric outcomes. And I think it's important that I start by saying this was not a weight management or intended to be a weight loss measure. We did see some fluctuations in weight, specifically with our team, with our women's basketball team, but that's not what we set out to do. Overall, we saw improvements in body composition across all of our athletes. That is something we were hoping to see. So we saw an increase in lean body mass, and we saw a decrease in overall fat mass. With our women's basketball team, you can see here a decrease in weight, increase in percent lean body mass, decrease percent body fat, decrease in waist circumference, and a decrease in waist to hip ratio. And then in our mixed sport athletes, we again saw that increased percent lean body mass and decreased percent body fat, but we saw no real changes in weight, waist circumference, or waist to hip ratio. A few things we think might have influenced that. Number one, again, we weren't intending to seek weight loss as an outcome of this measure. So that's not something we were driving. We weren't talking about calorie restriction in any way. with our women's basketball team, they were entering into season. They were all training very hard. Their conditioning was up. And so, and they were all doing the same workouts, the same conditioning. So I think we saw those numbers because the whole team was kind of moving in that more lean direction. With our mixed sport athletes, we had soccer, we had tennis, we had rifle, we had golf. Some folks were in season, some folks were out of season. We had both genders represented. So it wouldn't make sense to see the same directional shifts like we did with the women's basketball team. Okay, so what about our surveys? Did we find anything significant with that? Yes, we did. With our women's basketball team, our statistically significant finding here, which is a little bit funny to me, but we saw a statistically significant increase in their ability to explain the importance of food safety and sanitation. You saw that a little bit in the video where one of them said 145 degrees for cooking salmon. We feel like it's really important not just to teach you a culinary skill, not just to share recipes, but to also equip you with information that's going to be helpful to keep yourself safe and healthy, and maybe your roommates too. We heard a lot of stories of pizza being left out on the counter overnight and then eating it for breakfast the next morning. And so this graphic right here is the temperature danger zone. So anytime you have food that's between 40 and 140 degrees, I'm going to give you all a fact here, don't leave it out for more than 2 hours. Don't eat it after 2 hours. That's when it gets unsafe for consumption, and you don't want to be about to go to practice or have a big lift and also have some significant GI distress going on at the same time. So that's going to save you. In our mixed sport athletes, our culinary confidence, we had 9 statistically significant findings. I know how to properly use a chef's knife. I can explain the importance of food safety and sanitation. I know how to follow a recipe and adjust my cooking based on how demanding the day's work has been. I feel confident selecting a healthy snack after a workout. I can identify lean sources of protein. I can identify food sources of calcium and vitamin D. I can identify heart-healthy fat sources. I understand the role of antioxidants in performance and health. I feel confident planning and making a balanced meal that will include key nutrients and benefit my athletic performance. All of these were statistically significant results. With our athlete approach to cooking and nutrition, these are more directional shifts. So these are not statistically significant results, but are shifts in the right direction. With a 6-week intervention, that's not a whole lot of time to see actual modifications in behavior change. We feel like, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, creating that confidence can help drive some of the behavior change. So you've got to have the confidence to do it first and the underlying skills, and then you see those behavior changes occur. But we are seeing shifts in the right direction. For women's basketball, improvements in confidence using nutrition information, increased engagement with food prep and decision making, increased perceived ability to make healthier choices. And then for our mixed sport athletes, increased confidence in cooking their own meals, increased ability to utilize leftovers from meals that they had cooked and then utilize them in other ways, and then also an increase in planning their meals ahead of time and meal prepping. And then one other thing that I wanted to say about the differences between these two groups here is our mixed sport athletes, 100% of them were responsible for feeding themselves all the time. With our women's basketball team, that wasn't the case. They had, and I didn't know what a red card was. Y'all probably all know what that is. So they had meals at local restaurants, specific restaurants that they could go, and most of their meals were eaten out. And so a few differences between the two groups, but one of them was that our women's basketball team actually didn't have to cook for themselves, whereas our opt-in student athletes, they're responsible. If they want to eat, they're going to be the ones to do it. So I think that that helps explain some of our significant findings too.
Now we're on to our food diary results. These were very fun to see because vegetables saw a nearly double intake between pre and post time points. By March, they appeared in nearly every daily food log. And I thought it was really interesting. The vegetables that did appear were the ones that we used in class. So carrots, cucumbers, and mixed greens. This top picture right here is a photo submitted by one of our athletes post-intervention of her lunch. And you can see that she has included a side of strawberries, which is incredible to see. Fruit consumption saw a slight increase. And we also saw trends toward a healthier preparation method. So less reliance on fried food and more on grilled and baked foods. And then for hydration, we saw consistently high with over 50% of entries falling between 64 and 100 ounces. And that bottom picture is a image submitted by one of our athletes in our band chat of the chili lime salmon tacos. And I will say for food diary results, we did have less food diaries post-intervention because it is a 3-day tracking period versus with those surveys. We get them when we're first doing their anthropometrics because there's a QR code, you scan it, you do it right there. And then at the finale, we also have the anthropometrics and those 2 surveys, whereas this is a 3-day thing. So we did lose some of those logs due to follow-up. And then we hope that you value what we've said, but in case that you don't believe me, well, let's just hear it straight from the camel's mouth. The prompt that they were asked to respond to on one of their post-intervention surveys was name one key takeaway from the Tiger Bites program. We saw trends of increased confidence, putting together good healthy meals is easier than I thought, and nutrition knowledge translated into understanding and performance. Getting the one-on-one meeting to learn more resources and continue learning was my favorite. I understood the importance of a variety and macros and micros much more now. So we see that they really valued that one-on-one session with a registered dietitian, which was beneficial to them. And these are pictures of our 2026 finale winners and their golden spoon because that is the prize that you get for winning the competition. Isn't she lovely? And here is a video of one of those athletes talking during the competition. I put a camera in her face and said, talk.
Fueling for performance means to me maximizing everything nutritionally so I feel ready to go and practice and playing. And this has helped me definitely add more fruits and vegetables into my diet and understand the importance of the carbs and how that helps me feel.
And that's exactly what we want to hear, making real changes that improve your health and your performance, and really applying the information that you've learned from this program. We also have some more athlete testimonials.
Hi everyone, my name is Bailey Gilmore and I'm part of the women's basketball team here at the University of Memphis. And one of the things that I learned during our Tiger Bites course was definitely how to prepare quick balanced meals full of nutritious ingredients so that I'm not having to rely on fast foods all the time. And one of my favorite meals that I made during the course of our Tiger Bites was definitely the Mary Me chicken pasta, which allowed me to win our contest at the end of our sessions.
Yeah, and then we have Tanner from our rifle team.
Hi, I'm Tanner. I'm on the rifle team. I think some of my favorite things that I learned from this class were to be more confident in my cooking skills and understand better how to fuel my body and what the things I need for performance and training. Some of my favorite things that we made were the salmon. I never made salmon before, so that was a good experience to learn how to do that. Overall, I think it was just really awesome, and I recommend it to my friends. So.
Exactly. He recommends it to his friends because it's an awesome program, if I do say so myself. And so our athlete feedback conclusions were athletes left Tiger Bites with increased confidence, practical cooking skills, improved nutrition understanding, and real-world behavior changes in how they build meals, which is exactly the kind of outcomes that we wanted to see from this program.
Okay, I know I'm gonna move through this quickly. So our engagement levels, we saw good engagement, and from both our basketball and our mixed sport teams, we had 40% or 46% of our student athletes who regularly engaged with our digital content, and then 31% and 54% who occasionally engaged. Our opt-in athletes showed a little bit more consistent interaction, but again, these were the athletes who said, I want to be a part of this program, not the ones that said, my coach made me be here. We did ask them what was the most relevant content, the recipes and meal ideas, nutrition infographics, and the cooking demonstration videos. So like all of it was, and we had intended to provide different types of content for different styles of learners. And I think that's what we saw reflected back, is that people who needed the video input got that. People who preferred just a recipe, let me go, we got that too. And the ones who wanted a little bit more information had that as well. All right, let's go ahead. All right, so what do we think this means? Our key takeaways here, we saw an increase in culinary confidence, increased directional shifts in nutrition-related behaviors, and improvements in anthropometric data. We feel like behavioral change occurs when knowledge, skills, and reinforcement align, and a teaching kitchen is a high-impact environment where all three of these things can come together and make meaningful change. Tiger Bites works because it builds real-world skills. These are things that are important to you as a current student athlete, but they're also things that will be important to you as a grown-up person living in the world after you are no longer a student athlete. It's practical nutrition application, and it helps them make athlete-relevant food decisions. It's increasing self-efficacy and an increased comfort level in making those decisions. We've had student athletes in our program who have said, I've never been to the grocery store by myself before. I don't know how to do that. When we have international student athletes come in, that's a whole nother conversation that I won't get into, but that provides another opportunity for a lot of valuable information. Our digital media reinforced weekly concepts, and it supported our real-world application between our weekly class sessions. I've talked about this a little before, so I'm not going to spend time talking about it now, but we did have two different cohorts, and they were really different in what it was like to be in the room with them, and then also what their outcomes looked like. And we've talked about some of the reasons we think that might have been. So what are our implications here? Well, for athletics programs, we think that programs like Tiger Bites enhance athlete autonomy. It helps you all to build practical skills that you can use independently, and it encourages confident food decision making based around training and recovery. It aligns nutrition education with real performance needs and reinforces behaviors that are linked to body composition and recovery markers. As an educator and someone who's the director of a nutrition program, it's a win here too, because it provides a student athlete with relatable and influential messengers. Y'all see Lauren up here. She's one of my students. She's done a great job. You can see how instrumental she was in this program. Lauren is not the only one of my students who participated in this program as a peer educator. I had 4 other dietetic students, 2 of which are student athletes, who participated as peer educators in this program. And for them, that interaction with their peers, that peer-to-peer dynamic increases trust, engagement, and buy-in. It's easier for you to talk to Lauren about some things than it might be for you to talk to me about them. And so that's valued, and that's important. And so we wanted to honor that. For our students, for my students, it bridges the gap between knowledge and practice. It helps reinforce their classroom learning and give them an opportunity to practice the complex concepts of nutrition in a real life setting that's low stakes, because I'm there. There's other people there too if there's questions, but they can actually get that experiential learning practice. So mutual benefit. This is a win-win. It's great for athletics. It's great for education as well.
Now on to future directions. What's next for our program? So we're actually going to have a collaboration with Tulane, which is really exciting. A multi-institution AAC study between the University of Memphis and Tulane. We wanted to know, can Tiger Bites be expanded into institutions without teaching kitchens? We are very fortunate and very blessed to have that lovely, beautiful, incredible space, but not every school has that. So will we see the same results in a school that does not have a teaching kitchen? So for this next arm, we will have a 3-arm approach. The first approach will be on-site university teaching kitchen plus digital media, so this 6-week program that we've talked about for the past 45 minutes to you all. The second part will be the mobile pop-up and digital media. Since we're trying to replicate conditions where a teaching kitchen is not present, we will be doing mobile pop-ups of our lessons, so condensing them into a smaller form and going into fueling stations, weight rooms, and demonstrating this lesson, along with the digital media. And the third part will be the partner university collaboration. And a new part that we were adding is a longitudinal follow-up, so 3 months after the intervention, to see if we see any significant changes. Because like Mrs. Shallard had said, 6 weeks may not be enough time to really see behavior changes, so we're thinking that if we give it a little bit more time to sit and interact with that content and information, maybe we'll see some more statistical changes. And so with that, I want to leave you with this. If we want athletes to fuel like elite performers, we have to teach them how, not just tell them what. It's not enough for us to just tell you, eat fruits and vegetables. Let's let you see how easy it is to really construct a meal that fuels your body and fuels your athletic performance and see, oh, I can do this. It doesn't take that long. It's quite easy. And so with that,
we're so grateful to have had this experience, to have the support of the American, and to be able to do this work. We're excited to carry it forward this next year and to partner with Tulane and to see what it might look like to expand this and to share this type of program and information across the conference. So we're really, really excited about that. Of course, I have to thank University of Memphis Athletics for their willingness to partner, my college, the College of Health Sciences, for their support, and then most of all, I have to thank the student athletes who the three of them who were here yesterday have all participated in this programming, but the student athletes who are willing to give of their time and participate in this program, and then also my students who serve as peer educators, who I think add such a vibrant addition to this program. So very, very grateful, and thank you all so much.
And do you teach them anything about like using an air fryer?
We do. We do. We try to make sure that the equipment we use would be things that our student athletes have in their dorms or in their apartments. And so we might use an air fryer, we might use a microwave, we might use a hot plate. We try to figure out what everybody has to work with and then make sure that the recipes that we're using meet that.
Thank you all so much. Great presentation. Stay put, everybody. We're just going to switch into panel mode here for our final student athlete panel, so we'll get that going here in just a moment.
They gave me a mic.
I don't need a mic.
We might never get this panel started.
This right here is
You're like, this is my time to shine. I have a mic.
Yeah.
But right here, this is Mike squared right here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm just gonna have a dissertation at this point. Or half of his athletes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll make it.
Yeah, you'll be down to.
That's true. We were talking about how.
Cut into this panel time.
Right on.
I was like, don't let it rest.
So I know y'all end up talking about it, but it really is interesting as I've gotten older how important the rest is, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's what, when I did a marathon when I turned 60, so about 3 years, and if I didn't get 8 hours sleep, it's amazing, right? So the two things, because y'all keep thinking all the time, practice, workout, all that, but between nutrition and rest and recovery, that's part of the, I didn't realize it was a degree.
We're missing a couple.
Hey, is this on? Holy cow, they have given me a mic. Most of y'all don't know who I am, but they normally don't let me have a mic because we'll never get to the panel. No, hey, real quick, my name's Cal Christian. I'm the FAR at ECU, and I just want to introduce Mike Turner with Charlotte, who's the faculty athletics rep, who will be our host next year. and turn the panel over. And so this morning is a great morning because you're learning two things more than just exercise, how important the nutrition and the rest. Mike?
All right. Good morning, everyone. As Kyle said, my name is Mike Turner. I'm the far from Charlotte, and I play, thank you, Cam. I play exercise physiologist from time to time at work. But we're going to talk about sleep and athletics today. I'll do a little bit of my science stuff, but just a little bit of an introduction. I think most of us kind of have this sense of poor sleep behaviors are associated with poor health outcomes. So the worse sleep we get, we're more likely to result in developing like hypertension, diabetes, depression, anxiety. But with athletes, poor sleep, as we would expect, typically results in poor athletic performance. And what ends up happening as a potential hazard here is then we have run into maybe a little bit of a cycle where we have poor performance that causes us stress that results in worse sleep, and then the worse sleep impacts the performance, and then we run into bigger issues here. So, but conversely, we know that good sleep results in better athletic performance. So as we get started here, I just want to have everybody introduce ourselves as well as talk about our normal sleep habits, just like normal sleep patterns.
My name is Megan. I'm a senior on the mixed rifle team at UAB, and I am a proud person to get my 8 hours every night.
I'm Kirsten. I'm a junior on Rice's women's soccer team, and I also try to get around 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night.
Hi everyone, I'm Alyssa Dismuke, and I'm a thrower on Tulane's track and field team, and I sleep like at least 10 every day because it's like something I prioritize, I can't lie.
My name is Trey Spires. I'm a senior here at Wichita State on the track and field team, and I get about 7.5 hours a night.
All right, so let's come back the other way. Let's talk about in season versus out of season. How does our sleep patterns change?
I would say in season, especially like the night before a game and the night like of the game, for me, I'm definitely affected whether like I have a good performance on the field or I don't. I feel like if I don't have a good performance, I kind of stay up at night and I'm constantly thinking about like what's practice going to look like the next day, what are my coaches going to say to me, what is my team going to think, and that definitely negatively affects my sleep.
Thanks. For me, it like really depends on what time my event is the next day, because like sometimes we may throw at 10 a.m., sometimes we may throw at 5 p.m., and it really just depends. Like if I have to throw early in the morning, like I try to not do any homework so I can just like go to sleep or else I'll stay up all night trying to do work. So I try to prioritize my sleep, especially if I have to compete like early in the morning.
For us, match days usually start, we have to be at the range at 7 a.m., which definitely affects our sleep, where we get less of it. And you can definitely tell in our performance sometimes if we get into the hotel late at night or if we have a lot of homework that day going on, that we perform usually a little bit worse than we would if we had a full night's of rest.
Yeah, I agree with that. With the travel, it can be hard, but I try to get more sleep 2 days before and then the night of as well.
Yeah, so travel brings in an interesting issue here. So do you have a strategy for your sleep with travel that you don't typically incorporate when you're in your normal sleeping environment?
I'll start. Usually I try to add naps in. We can nap in the van when we're traveling, or a lot of time, depending on what relay you are on, because even if you're there at 7 a.m., you might not be shooting until 12, 1 o'clock. So we try to nap as much as possible.
Personally, I don't struggle as much sleeping at hotels. I know some of my teammates do. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper, so it doesn't affect me too much, but talking with some teammates, I have seen it negatively affect them when we do have longer travel days before.
Yeah, so for me, like it all goes back to whenever I compete, like what time. So say if I have to compete at like 12 p.m., I don't have to be at the track till about an hour and a half, an hour before I compete. So like if I don't have to compete until 12, I'm sleeping until like 10:30. But if I have to compete at like 2, I'm sleeping until 12. So it really all depends on like when I compete, because I will get my rest by any means.
For me, I'm like a really big person that likes to have a routine. So like when we have a home game, I have like a set routine that I go through every day. And I think that's something that I struggle with when we travel, just not having that same routine. And I've been working on that this past year, of just like, making sure I finish my schoolwork, before the game the next day or something like that. But that's definitely something that I'm still working on, and struggle with during season.
Great. So travel brings a lot of issues, potential issues. Do you consider your sleep environment when you travel? So like at home, you may have a light on in a certain location, or you have blackout curtains on up, or you have, friends you have like sleeping. When I travel with women's basketball, we have folks that are always carrying like their stuffed animals and stuff. Do you have those things with you all the time, or how does that work?
I mean, me personally, I do sleep with a stuffed animal, and I actually have one in my suitcase back there. So yes, I always like bring the things that I have at home with me to travel, because it's like, if that's something that I normally sleep with, then I would need that when I'm away, you know?
So your environment is, you try to be consistent.
Yeah, I have to be. Like, I feel like it's important, because like your body knows what it's used to, and like whether it's sleep or anything else, like your body will be able to tell if you don't have like what it's used to. So yeah, I try to be mindful of that.
I think for me, like I sleep with white noise on, and then I also have to sleep in like a pitch black room, like there can't be any light. And I think that's also, it's a struggle when you have a different roommate every trip, because you also want to be cognizant of their like sleeping habits. So I think that's a difficult task, to like deal with, especially on like Rice's team. Like we usually have a different roommate every trip because they want us to like get closer with our teammates.
Personally, I travel with my pillow, my blanket, my stuffed animal. That's something that we luck out with traveling in a van, is we can bring kind of whatever we want, and we can fall asleep in the van, whatever. The other nice thing is I have had the same roommate traveling for the past 2.5 years, which is very helpful, because we've kind of learned how each other works and how like our night routines and all that kind of stuff.
I also like to sleep with white noise. Really helps me go to bed quicker. But yeah, having a roommate can make it a little bit difficult. Usually just tell them, hey, if it bothers you, feel free to turn it off. And then I also like to bring a blanket with me as well.
So we talked a little bit, there's a little bit of a conversation about stress. How does stress play into this for you all? So if there's a stressful day, is there more thought put towards sleep, or is it just more of like separate? You know what I mean?
In my opinion, like when you are stressed out, there are certain things that you can do to like kind of alleviate some of that stress. But for me, like sleep is a big thing that helps, because it just allows your mind and your body to reset, and it allows you to like go through, like the process of whatever is wrong, and it allows you to like sit with it and rest, which is what you really need when you are stressed. But I feel like with stressful days, like sleep isn't always the answer, but sometimes like taking a walk outside, like getting some sunlight or touching grass, as people say, like like you need those things, to settle your spirit and to settle your mind. So I try to like play around with a lot of things that can alleviate some stress. And I know for me, like personally, like lifting is like a big stress reliever for me. So like if I'm having a stressful day and I don't lift until like later in the day, like after like that first 30 minutes in the weight room, like I'm usually fine. And so I don't know if anyone else experiences that, but that's what I feel like.
For me, I feel like I'm a very anxious person. So like when I'm stressed out, like I don't sleep at all. So that like, especially like when we're traveling too, just being in like that new environment, I feel like I get affected like that, really badly. And I've tried like a whole bunch of different things. Like I've tried reading a book before bed instead of scrolling on TikTok. I've tried meditating. I think what works best for me is like working out. But when you get caught by your coaches working out the night before a game, they're not going to be too happy. So you kind of have to balance that. But yeah, I'm still playing around with that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm terrible about sleeping when I'm stressed, but I tend to rely more on my hobbies or hanging out with my teammates. My teammates are some of my best friends, so they're definitely ones to help me de-stress a bit, as well as when my teammates and we crochet all the time. So we always just we relax, but we don't always get sleep just for the fact that the new environment can stress us out. And I'm always awake when I'm stressed, just thinking about everything. So it's important for me to just calm my mind.
So I got an Aura Ring this past August, and it has helped me track my stress, which has been fun. And I noticed that Tuesdays and meet days tend to be my biggest stress days. So I just like to prioritize meeting with the trainers and recovering my body. Sleep, not necessarily. Maybe that's something I should try more.
Yeah, actually, that's great. I was just going to go into that. So we just had this wonderful conversation about nutrition and diet and food preparation, but a lot of times we'll possibly track our food intake. Do we track our sleep and our stress and try and understand if there's an ability to get a feel for what's working or not, if reading is going to help me now, or because it might help once, but then the next 3 times it doesn't work and that stresses you out even more. Is there a way, do you track your sleep and try and get a feel for what's happening?
So for me, going back to the white noise, I'd kind of tried a couple different things in the fall to help my sleep, improve my latency, so how long it will take for me to fall asleep. And I've noticed white noise allows me to go from like that 30-minute range down to the 15. So I'm falling asleep quicker, allowing me to get more time in bed.
For me, I don't really track it, but like I said, I do sleep a pretty good amount. But every night I try to have 2 little packets of tart cherry juice, and it helps for rest and recovery and muscle repair. So I try to have that every night, and it's pretty good. And I don't know, I just sleep, and I guess I'm gifted in that aspect because a lot of people can't sleep past 8 hours, and I didn't know that was a thing.
Kind of similar to he said, I have a Whoop, so I track my sleep every night, and I've started to notice a little bit more again with using white noise, I'm able to get to sleep quicker.
Yeah, I also have the Aura Ring, but I've just noticed that complete darkness and silence is what works for me, and I just need to be able to have that environment. It also helps with the consistency if I bring my own pillow and blanket and stuffed animal, and everything is very similar to my own home environment, which helps me fall asleep faster.
Nice. So in the last, say, 15 or so, 20 years, there's been a pretty good amount of research about sleep and student athletes. And there's been, especially around COVID, we had a lot of research on mental health in student athletes. And one of the things that came out is that student athletes on a college campus regularly get worse sleep than the rest of the general college student population, which when I was a college student was not great. So I can only imagine how much worse it is for the student athletes. So when you kind of consider your issues with sleep, do you as teammates, do you kind of share any of your sleep issues or have conversations about strategies you have for sleep, especially when we're on the road as much as we are?
I would say not as much for my team. We are very dedicated sleepers. It's something that we always try to prioritize, especially when we're traveling. So it's not as big of an issue on my team.
This kind of reminds me of when we were talking about coffee yesterday. A lot of my teammates love energy drinks, and they have NIL deals with like Alani and those other companies, and so like after they don't have a little sleep, they like have an energy drink. Me personally, I don't do any caffeine, because I don't think that's like cool or safe, low key. But it's like whatever. But like when they don't get any sleep, they kind of have an energy drink and they perk up. But I'm like kind of concerned because like, does that really help, or is it just like a long lasting thing, or does it like make you crash? Like that's what I've experienced.
Yeah, I would say it's not really a big conversation that's had within my team. But similar to what she just said, like my team is very reliant on caffeine and Alani's. So I definitely see that like affecting performance.
For me, I'm an engineer here, so me and my teammates that are engineers, we tend to just have maybe a bit more homework. I try to get it done early in the morning, whereas a couple of my teammates like to do it as late as possible, it seems like. So we tend to have conversations about, hey, how late were you up last night studying or preparing for that exam? So I've seen it mostly with engineers on my team, but that's who I tend to conversate the most with.
Well, and yesterday we had with the UTSA group talking about caffeine and stuff, and so that brings up another issue, like do we regularly kind of reach for the caffeine, especially later in the day if we're kind of tired, if we got a competition coming up that's like early evening, and then how does that change your sleep at all? Do we even think about that as far as like, I just love my caffeine, and then suddenly 4 hours later it's like, I don't know why I can't go to sleep now?
Yeah, for me, I drink a coffee every morning. But like when I wake up and I know I only slept like 5 hours, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need 2 coffees, 3 maybe to get me through the day.
Personally, I don't drink caffeine. It's something I used to, but it just wasn't great with the whole shooting and accuracy thing that comes with rifle. A lot of my teammates do though, and they're shaky if they don't drink caffeine in the morning. So it's all just a personal preference on rifle and how addicted we are to caffeine.
I'll do caffeine on meet days. We did a study in one of my classes, and caffeine was directly linked to force output. So for me, it's kind of just the science side of it, helping maximize my performance. But as for sleep, I definitely notice if I have a meet that's later in the day and I'm drinking, an Alani or something later in the day, I've noticed my sleep tends to be worse as well.
Like I said, personally, I don't do any caffeine, but I know a lot of people that do. And I've seen that they like need like 2 or 3 energy drinks a day or like 2 or 3 coffees a day. And like fun fact, I had a roommate freshman year and she had like way too much coffee, and at like 10 p.m. at night she went on a run because she couldn't like go to sleep. And so I'm like, that was it for me because I don't have to really experience that to know that I don't need that. But it's like some people are really addicted to caffeine, and I definitely do think it affects their sleep and their overall performance, like in a long-term stance.
So as we kind of progress through this with teammates, maybe talking about, maybe not, we also have the coaching staff as part of this. Does the coaching staff make recommendations or requirements for sleep as well as like rest? I know some of our coaches at UNC Charlotte will ask student athletes to not go to class the day of a competition. They need to rest. I see plenty of students resting in my class, so it's like, I shouldn't comment on that. But do you have that from your coaching staffs where you're recommended to stay off your feet for the whole day, or I need you to go to bed at 10 every night? Are there that kind of strong direction from the coaches?
I know for us on the track team, Coach Rainbolt, I feel like every year in a team meeting, he wears a Garmin or an Apple Watch or something and always brings up his sleep scores. He's a big guy, so he sleeps really well, but tall. So he always encourages us to get 9 hours of sleep every day. So yeah, he does a really good job of that.
Our coaches do like harp on sleep a lot. Like our weight coach specifically, when you walk in the weight room, he's going to ask you 3 questions. He's going to ask you, what did you eat for dinner? He's going to ask you, what did you eat for breakfast? And he's going to ask you how long you slept last night. And so like always having those constant reminders like kind of keeps you on track. But like I said, like me personally, I'm cool, but I know a lot of other people like need that to like focus on sleep and like really make sure that they're getting sleep. I feel like as college students, like we prioritize so many other things because like they have to be done, especially as student athletes. So we don't really like focus on the sleep aspect that we need to complete all those tasks that we have to.
My coaches are really big on sleep. We fill out this thing called Fit for 90 every day. So it goes through like if you're feeling stressed out, like if you're feeling anxious, like a whole bunch of different like questions to ask you, and then you fill out like how much sleep you got. And our coaches, based off of that, they'll cater practice towards that. So say like I only got 3 hours of sleep. You best believe my coaches are gonna come up to me and they are gonna ask what's going on. And they honestly, it's never happened to me personally, but some of my teammates have been like held out of practice because they've only got a certain amount of sleep. So they're like, this is like, we don't want to put you in a position where you can injure yourself because you didn't get the correct amount of sleep. And then I also feel like when we're traveling, especially, my coaches are very big on like taking care of your business. So if say we have a Sunday morning game, Saturday night, you need to have everything in line. You have to have, get all your schoolwork done so you wake up the next morning not having the stressor of school, and then making sure that you get like a good night's sleep.
It's not as big of a conversation for us. All of our matches are away, so we've kind of developed our own little routine as a team where we leave first thing in the morning on Fridays. We get there by Friday afternoon, and we have that evening to kind of get any work done and go to sleep and hang out if we want to. But it's just more about how we've built our routine over the past 3 years as a team. Yeah.
Coming back to what Kirsten said, can you go to your coaching staff and tell them that you're struggling to sleep? There's research to show with student athletes, there's certain items you don't go tell your coach because you feel it's going to negatively influence your opportunity for time in competition, right? You get less time on the field or the court or what have you. Or can you go to your coach and you're confident that it's not going to, it's going to be kind of used to hold you back from opportunities? Or where do you go? The other part of the literature is like student athletes feel like there's no one really to go to if you're struggling for sleep within the athletic department or even on campus. So can you go to the coach or where will you go?
I think I could definitely go to my coaches and talk about that. I also think our like training staff does a really good job of that. We've had some sleeping issues like on our team, and I know that they've been like a big help in finding like resources in like our medical center to work with them on how to like manage sleeping better.
Yeah, for us, one of my roommates, my sophomore year, I believe, was struggling to sleep, talked to the coach, so he had a couple times where he didn't come to the original practice time and would come a little bit later because he would try to get a nap or something in throughout the day. So our coach was very willing to work with him, but also, when it comes to competition day, the competition's not going to work with you. You have to be on schedule with that. So having conversation with the trainers, but then also sports psychologists is also very important.
That was something that when we had a dietitian, my freshman year, I struggled a lot with sleep, and that was something that we would talk about with our dietitian, and she would give us recommendations on, like, I believe she gave me some sort of supplement that would help me sleep better, and it was just a conversation that we could have with them and our athletic trainers. One of my teammates also struggled a lot with sleep and ended up having to go get a sleep study. And she's been a lot better since then, and it's just been a great thing that we've had help with on our team.
I know for sure that Tulane, we have a lot of resources that we can go to. Like we could go to our nutritionists, our athletic trainers, our coaches. Like if we tell someone, hey, we're having trouble sleeping, like they'll take the time to figure out what it is. Like they'll get to the bottom of it seriously and not just, kind of give you a Band-Aid. They'll ask you like what you're eating, like are you stressed? They'll ask you how school is going, like all these things that kind of build into how we get sleep. And I think it's just very important to have those kind of resources and those outlets, different outlets, especially because, a lack of sleep can come from many different problems. And it's just good to have different resources to get down to the bottom of it.
Great. Does anyone in the audience have questions about this? I've kind of exhausted my list here, so yeah.
So my brother, he's 18, he's in his first year of college, and he had a Whoop. Like I have an Oura Ring, but he had a Whoop. And he had to stop because he got so obsessed with the data. Like he kept, focusing on the sleep score, like why am I not getting a sleep score? Like I know it's not gonna be good tomorrow. And so he had to take the Whoop off and stop. So I was just curious if you guys have experienced that or know anyone who has, because I know it's a problem that's coming out with all these new trackers.
I have a Whoop, and I'm definitely very obsessed with tracking what my sleep is, like what I'm in REM sleep or deep sleep or whatever it is. But I really think that comes down to a personal preference and decision to make. If it's gonna stress you out more, then I think that would be the best case scenario is to not use that. But for me, I am obsessed with it, but it doesn't really affect me.
So my fiance got this for me, my Oura Ring, for a birthday present, and her best friend had one as well. And so they were telling me about don't let the numbers define your day. And I've noticed I'll wake up being like, dang, I feel like I had a great sleep score last night, and it will be like a 73. And then I'll wake up feeling exhausted, like I can't do today, and it'll be like a 88. So the numbers, I would just say you can't let them define your day. It's all just about your body, and it mostly is about, a couple days before as well. So that's all I would say.
I also have the Oura Ring, and I would say at the beginning, I was very obsessed with what my numbers were, but then I realized what the numbers were, like he was saying, didn't always match up with how I was feeling. So it also just kind of depends on how you're feeling. It's important to stick to your, create a routine that helps you and just stick to it.
I don't have anything that tracks my sleep except for myself, my body. And I think that's something that we kind of get away from, with all this technology, is that we are constantly looking at numbers and data. And I think that just creates a negative mindset sometimes, that we're always chasing these what do they call sleep scores. We're chasing sleep scores and stuff like that. I wouldn't even know how to do that. And I feel like if I did that, I would be constantly trying to fight for this and then just focusing on the wrong thing when there's so much other stuff. So I just kind of use my body to track my sleep. If I'm feeling good, I know. If I'm feeling exhausted, I know. If I need 2 more hours of sleep, I'm going to get it. If I don't, then I'm going to wake up. So it's I don't know. I don't really track anything.
That's great.
So in my day job as a historian, I do a lot with civil liberties. And I think about the surveillance potential implications when you're sharing sleep data, personal data with coaches and others. And I'm wondering if anybody's addressed that with you all, or if you've had concerns arise about that, about sharing that type of, which could be defined as health information.
For my Whoop, my coaches don't have access to that because I decided to go out and get it, and not my coaching staff giving it to me. But for when we fill out that Fit for 90 every day, I think there's definitely times that players on my team, didn't get a good night's sleep and they got 3 hours, but they don't want to, get asked questions by our coaching staff or get pulled out of practice or have limited practice. So I think they would definitely, they're going to put that they have a better sleep score. So I definitely think there is some aspects of that, sharing that information with your coaching staff.
I had a friend who played baseball at a JUCO nearby, and a lot of his teammates and him had whoops. And if they ever wanted to go out and have fun, they would just take them off and not wear them that night, and just tell their coach that they forgot. Because if they did wear it and they had a bad sleep score, they would potentially get in trouble. But I think it's important. I think our coaches want what's best for us, and they do want to value our sleep. So I think sharing it is a little bit scary. Personally, we don't here, but yeah.
For us, our coach kind of just lets us be, and she does not ask about any of that kind of information at all. The only time it ever comes up is if we're looking particularly exhausted one day or one week. I know this semester I had a teammate who is an engineering student, and because of that, he had a bunch of projects due, and he just didn't sleep for like 2 days straight because he was just trying to get all these projects done. And we were in season at that point, and my coach said, go home, take the rest of the week off. You're going to do better if you're sleeping rather than practicing exhausted.
Now, this reminds me of what I tell my class, like when we rest and recover, it helps our muscles heal and all that. But we also know that when you sleep, that's when we store our memories. So when we're studying and doing things in class, pulling an all-nighters actually doesn't help because you're not putting anything in memory until you go to sleep. So getting good night's sleep is helpful physically, but also for a lot of our mental as well, as we kind of circle back on this mental health issue that really is strongly tied to sleep, but also doesn't help with when we have athletic performance over top of all that.
I don't know if Whoop has the feature, but I know the Aura Ring does. Do you guys ever tie together like the foods that you eat, the caffeine intake, practice? Do you track those lifestyle things that Aura lets you track and then like dial it back to the numbers? I'm so curious how you dive into the data.
I personally don't. I don't really input that much onto my app. I just kind of look at the numbers and adjust how I see fit, rather than looking at the data and putting in all the outside data into the app.
I like to add some of those things in there. I like to add whenever I have caffeine. And then we had a trip earlier this year with some friends. We went up to Colorado, and I had never really been at that elevation before. And I added that in, and it tells you when you add certain things, like users see a % increase or decrease in sleep, readiness, activity when they're either at like altitude or when they consume caffeine. So I think it's very interesting to see everyone and how they normally react to these sort of things as well.
I'm just curious how many of you have stress dreams from your sport, like, or good dreams from it, like, and is that different in season and out of season? Yeah.
Out of season, I don't really have any stress dreams about my sport, but definitely in season, especially like after a bad performance, I'm just constantly replaying, like if I let in a goal, like that play. I'm just constantly thinking about that, and I feel like that has a really big impact on me.
Me personally, like when I do dream, it's never about my sport, which I think is like crazy, but I dream mostly about like school, like missing an assignment, or I like wake up in the middle of the night and like thinking I missed a test and it's like 2 a.m, or like I do like little things like that. But I don't know if it's like from stress or if it's just like from like school, like thinking that you always have to do something. But I guess that is stress. I'm not sure. But like I don't really like dream about my sport or like any mistakes that I made. But if I did like make a mistake in a throw or something, like I'll replay it, but it never really translates to my sleep.
I'm with Alyssa on this one. I don't necessarily dream about my sport, but sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night being like, oh, a new strategy to try out tomorrow at practice. So it's definitely like I don't dream about my sport, but I do notice I have a lot more stress dreams when I'm in season just from my lack of time, whether I'm dreaming about missing an assignment like Alyssa said or something else that I have going on in my personal life. I'm just waking up stressed sometimes.
Yeah, I will agree with that as well. I don't tend to dream about my sport, but I do notice after poor performances or what I deem poor performances, I tend to struggle to fall asleep that night or the following night.
Which is common in the literature, right? And then there's the spiral if we don't can improve our sleep at some point and or performance.
So out of curiosity, do you think that rest and recovery is more important to you in season versus off season?
I honestly think that they're equally important because your off season prepares you for your in season, and especially like with track, like we do track like all year round pretty much because it's indoor and outdoor. So you really only have like that summer and quite up until December to like really hone in on like the preseason, and that's like your out of season time, I guess. But like it's important because like you're slowly building up to that like one big meet, that championship meet, that conference meet. Like that's your build up. So it's important all the way through, especially when you're out of season, because that's when you like may lack in your discipline, and that's because you have like a little room to, but like that's when you have to be like conscious of the things that you're doing so that when you get in season, like it's not a struggle anymore at this point, like it's just a habit.
I agree that it's equally important, but I do kind of luck out in a way that my sport, we don't have, once our season ends, we're done until August. All we have to do is work out, which is great for giving us that extra time. We do have optional practices, but our coach is not there as much, and it's just kind of whatever we want to do and put into our sport, we can. So we do luck out in that way that we do have more time to focus on what we need to focus on, whether that's our academics or some of us get jobs outside of season just to help pay for different things.
I would almost say it's more important, kind of like what Alyssa was saying with building those habits. It's going to be a lot harder to build those habits and start that process in the middle of season when we have classes, competition every other day, every other weekend. So building those habits in the summer, in the off season, for me has been a lot easier.
I would say it's definitely equally as important in season and out of season, but I definitely put more of an emphasis on it in season, just because I feel like when I'm in the spring season, I have a lot more on my plate in terms of academics and the course load that I'm taking. So I feel like I put the emphasis on that rather than my own recovery.
My question, I just want to follow up it because here's what I'm hearing. It sounds like for your coaching staff or the trainers, the rest is as much of a part of your training as the workouts and some of that exercises. So is that what I'm hearing kind of from your coach and your staff? They're putting an emphasis on rest for you?
Well, like yes, but like your body will put an emphasis on rest for you if you don't yourself. So like whenever you're performing and you're not resting and recovering properly, like that's going to show up in your performance sooner or later. And it may not show up like now, but it will like at some point. Because like I said, it's building those habits. Like in order to perform well all the time, like you have to be able to recover quicker. You have to be able to rest. Like if you have injury, rest is essential to recovering from any type of injury. So it's not even, I wouldn't just say the coaches when they, yes, they do emphasize that, but it's like it's necessary. It's not just a coach thing, it's a everybody thing, I think.
I'd agree with that. Our coach doesn't talk about it as much, but it's a lot more of us having to listen to our bodies. Being in rifle, we have to check in with our body at like every shot we take. We check in with every muscle, every breath, every thought in our head. And it's something that if you don't get a lot of rest, that's something that's going to come in and sneak its way into your match and then affect your performance. So it's something that we have to put our own emphasis on. Otherwise, we're going to perform worse.
Yeah, as much as I think the trainers here like me, I don't think they want to see me in the training room every day with small little nagging injuries. And I think the coaches agree with that as well. They want us out there performing at our best. So they're always emphasizing, 8 to 9 hours of sleep, staying hydrated, and just being prepared.
I think that's going to need to be our last question.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for all your help up here, and thank you all for your questions.
Great panel. Thank you all so much.
Good job, team.
All right, everybody, we're going to take a short break. We'll reconvene at 10:15 with our last presentation, but it's going to be a good one. We do have refreshments that have been set out here, so help yourselves. And yeah, take a few, and we'll see you for the final session.
Hey, Cal. Hey, Cal, 4 mics. 4 mics, Cal.
Well, I was rotating myself, right?
All right, let's go ahead and get started again if we can, so we can get folks on the road and back home. Okay, so our next grant application recipient presenter is, like myself, an athletic trainer. By the way, I'm Greg Gardner. I'm the faculty athletic rep at the University of Tulsa, and I'm an athletic trainer, as is Dr. Kelly Cheever. Several years ago, I read the most significant factor in athlete compliance in a rehab protocol or program is the athlete's perceived value of that program. So Dr. Cheever is going to talk to us about educating athletes to improve injury reporting on musculoskeletal injuries. So I'm really looking forward to it. Dr. Cheever has his undergraduate from Southern Utah, his master's from Brigham Young University, and his PhD is from Temple, and he is an associate professor at the University of Texas, San Antonio. Sorry. When Dr. Cheever's done, hold tight, sit tight. Clay has some final wrap-up stuff for you after the questions. Sorry.
I don't know about all of you, but I woke up wondering what's going to be in this box lunch. And so I'm already dreaming, and so we'll see. We'll try and get through as quickly as possible. You'll also have to bear with me because I'm a bit of a storyteller, and sometimes it may seem like these stories aren't getting anywhere, but we're going to land every time. The first story I'm going to share with you is about my little brother. My little brother is significantly younger than me and a vegetarian. I'm going to tell you the story of why my brother is a vegetarian. The story normally doesn't land very well, but in Kansas, I think I'm going to get a pretty good reception. So when my brother was in the 2nd grade, he went to a beef processing plant. I don't know why, but they thought, you know what's going to be really educational for these kids to find out where meat comes from. And so they took the 2nd graders on a little field trip, you know, kill a cow, watch it, see how we get the meat, and then we're going to eat some meat at the end of this road show. My brother hasn't eaten meat since then. He's now in his late 20s, and so I think he's pretty much set for life as far as his beef consumption. Why I tell this story is because I have always been a tremendous fan of sport. Whatever it is, any sport. My wife makes fun of me because during COVID I was watching people throw cornhole. Like the only thing on was Cornhole World Championships. I'm watching it. Like anything that you can have a competition of, I'm there and I'm going to be watching it. That's why I chose athletic training as a career, as Greg mentioned. I'm an athletic trainer. But what I wasn't anticipating in particular as I transitioned into my role as an athletic trainer is the toll that playing sport, particularly persisting into college and into professional sports, as I spent some time in professional sports as well, was the toll that it takes on your body. So if you're going to day in and day out play sports, it's one thing if you're playing middle school. I grew up in Utah, proud Junior Jazz alum, and you're playing on Saturday for like 30 minutes. Most people can play 30 minutes a week of basketball. It's not too crazy. You get into high school, and maybe I'm fairly old, so we weren't doing too much AAU back in the day, and we weren't going out too much. We weren't playing in 8 seasons at a time. And so most people could live through it. But as I transitioned again into some of these collegiate settings and into professional settings, it amazed me how many injuries the student athletes had. Like it was almost everyone. I worked on a football predominantly. We had 123 guys on the roster, and I bet you there wasn't 20 that didn't have something come up over the course of the season. And many of them we had one guy who had 7 ACL tears, which is crazy, right? Why was this guy still playing sports? I don't know. I only know he had 7 because he blamed me for the 7th one. First day of my GA ship, he's out there on the field, and he's like, this guy said I could go out there. And I was like, absolutely under no circumstance am I taking the fall for this. But he felt it necessary to blame me so he wouldn't get in trouble. And so that's how I found out he had had 7 previous ACL injuries, is because they said, why did you tell him he could go out to OTAs? And I told him, I said no such thing. I don't even know who that is. And so It was amazing to me, though. But what I started to notice is there's this culture to sport, right? And there's certain things that you do. There's certain things that you don't do. And that culture varies quite dramatically based on the team, based on the context. And so one of the things that I was very interested in as I started to realize that I was not athletically gifted, despite my mom's beliefs of me being in the NFL one day. I didn't even make it to my high school varsity team till like junior year. And so it was a short goal. But how many of you have heard this saying before in your lifetime? How many of you, to some degree, agree with this saying? Some, a little bit? What do we think of when we hear this saying? I think of my very below average lacrosse coach as a high school student who would just shout this as we ran wind sprints on the asphalt, because lacrosse, you know how it is. You don't get access to any grass. You're just in the asphalt. And he would tell you that has something to do with weakness. If you're feeling any kind of pain, you're weak. He worked, as I think I mentioned, a prison guard in his full-time job. And so he was a very interesting fellow, but he always made us believe that we were weak. And that was his number one thing. And that pain is just the weakness leaving your body. Maybe you've heard that before in your life, but pain is just weakness leaving your body. And so if you just continue persisting, you're going to get all of that weakness pushed right out of your body, and you're going to be all right. Next, how many of you have heard this before in your life? How many of you are so much better than anyone on your high school team that even if you were like 20%, you would still be better than them? It's okay to say that you're there. So like this is one of the complicated things, particularly as I transitioned to college sports and into also professional sports. As you get to the point, particularly if you're one of the stars of the team, you're one of the primary players, that whether you want to admit it or not, you're in a position where even if you're hurt, you're still your team's best option. We can agree? There are times in your life that even if you were like, I'm not feeling it today, I'm sick, all the time I'm watching these basketball games and the guy's like, this guy was throwing up till 5 a.m. and here he is playing through it. And I was like, why? Is he that much better than the next guy? What does a guy on the bench think when you're telling him, like, you know what, bud? This guy's puking, but it's sixes. It's a toss-up. I don't know. I think we need you. I think we need you if we're going to win. I think we need you if we're going to win this game. And you got John on the bench thinking, like, Coach, give me a chance. I got it. I think I got it. I can do it for us. But unfortunately, we're going to go with the guy puking if at all possible. And we got a bucket on the sideline, and it's humorous. But many of you may have experienced this, right? Many of you feel like absolute crap. You've got something bothering you, and you still know deep in your heart what? It's got to be you, right? You're the best option if the team's going to win, and maybe it's that mentality that got you to where you are in life. No one ever thought that about me, so I didn't have to come. But the word I think of is obligation, right? So again, particularly where you're student athletes, maybe you have an obligation to your family, maybe you have an obligation to your team, maybe the obligation to the fans, whatever it may be, there's some type of obligation that comes in to play. I feel like the text color is not right on this one. I missed a word. How many of you have heard this before? Let me tell you, I still do some PRN athletic training work out there on the circuit in San Antonio, so you might see me if you're ever out there. And I can't tell you how many times I'm talking to like these middle school age kids. How many of you had Osgood Slaughters growing up or some kind of growth plate related injury? Happens almost to everyone. Anyone that's young and really hitting it hard, you're going to get an injury. You know the best way to cure that? You do nothing for 6 months. How many of you could think about that as a 12-year-old and think, I'm not going to play sports for 6 months? Ugh. Nope. But even worse, I hear parents all the time reminding their kids, you know how much it costs for you to be here? Or like we'll be talking to them, I'll be like, you know what, we really need to like We need to look at a time, and I'll be talking to them. Your kid needs to find a window, 4 to 6 months, where they can just rest and recover and feel better. And then you just got to hear about how much AAU costs, how much this costs, how much that costs. We're already spending all this money on you. And what, as a little kid, are you thinking? Well, I guess I got to do it. Like my mom and dad already paid for it, so I guess I got to do it. And so you're there and you're doing it. And so again, we hear this word obligation again. So again, here you are as a student athlete. Again, you all have made it to the collegiate level, but there's middle school kids out there. There's high school kids out there that still feel this obligation that they got to show up and play. That should say can't, by the way. I'm dyslexic. And so what it should say is, but if I can't play, what will I do? Have any of you ever thought this before? We got a couple seniors in there. So again, maybe you're getting to that point in your life where you're thinking, you know what? Like, I feel a little bit injured, but like, if I can't play, what am I going to do instead of this? What's next? Again, if I can't play basketball, if I can't play soccer, I imagine probably if you're on the rifle team, you get to shoot guns the rest of your life, so that's pretty encouraging. And so for the rest of us, though, there's not a lot that we get to do for the rest of our lives as far as sports. I am a grown man, and I no longer have 10 buddies that will stand on a field with me, put on pads, and run into another 10 people or 11 people. So at some point in life, that kind of dies off. And so you may be thinking about what's next. The word I like to think of when I think of this is kind of the unknown. Unknownness, I don't know if that's a word, it is now. A little bit scary, do we agree? It's a little bit scary to think about what we don't know or we don't have answers to. Oh, the text on this is just robbing us today. What does that say? It says the athletic trainer has no idea what they are talking about. Have any of you ever thought this before in your life? How many of you ever thought like that? I'm an athletic trainer. I'm going to try to not take it personally. But how many of you have ever in your life heard an athletic trainer say something and you're like, nope, that's not it. Nah, you don't got it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know where you're headed. Or maybe you've heard from a teammate. Not that guy. That's not who you're going to. I trust me, when I was that guy and I had that athlete, I'm not going to blast him right now. Not that any of you have ever heard of him because he had 7 ACL tears, so he never played. But I'm positive he ratted me out. And so there's no chance anyone that had any trust in him was never going to come to me. And that's how my graduate assistantship started, is that guy's like, that guy, not to be trusted at all. And so this is something I run into as an athletic trainer all the time. Is like, it doesn't matter how much good you do. You do someone dirty one time, just one time. One kid tears his ACL for the 7th time. And the rest of your life, you're that guy who let him go out and play. And even if it wasn't you, there's a few things that we kind of know. And by know, I mean, I did a little bit of research. This has been a very long pathway to get you to the purpose of today. So the purpose of today is to talk about why I thought this might be an interesting research study to do, or something that we might want to do something about. Recently, and recently is not so recent, I did a study and we looked at how often do people, and by people I mean this was in collegiate athletes, and we also looked at high school aged and middle school aged athletes, do they not report an injury? How many in your life have had an injury, you know you were injured, but you told no one? Oh, well, it's more than half. We just figured it out. And so you guys are the persistency. So it's at least 50 to 60% of musculoskeletal injuries go unreported. We also know that musculoskeletal injuries are pretty common. So they happen about 2 or 7 times for every 10,000 exposures. That's a little epidemiology for you. And so we also know that it's a leading cause of time loss. So again, if you've been told before in your life that the best ability is availability, maybe. You've heard that one before? No one's ever heard that? Come on now. That's it. Okay, I just dropped a nugget. Just dropped a little nugget for you. The best ability is availability. So about 3/4 of the time student athletes miss is due to musculoskeletal injury. Again, there's other reasons, maybe bad grades, poor performance, etc. The other thing that you should know, and I find through my interventions very few people know, is that injuries that are reported in the acute stage lead to faster recovery time and less time loss. How many of you ever had an injury you didn't report and it got to be something worse? A few of you? What happens then? You miss time, right? And very likely you miss more time than you otherwise would have missed had you just disclosed it in the first place. However, how many of you have ever told an athletic trainer or some kind of health personnel about an injury and they mostly dismissed it? There you go. And so we wonder all the time, as I'm a healthcare provider, right? And all the time I think to myself, why don't they ever tell me? Again, I told you I moonlight as an athletic trainer on the San Antonio circuit. And all of the time I have people come up to me and guess what they tell me? Something hurts. Go ahead and guess the average amount of time they tell me it's been hurting. At least 2 months, right? Oh, this has been hurting me for 8 years. They're 12. But yes, this has been hurting this since I was 4 years old. My back has been like this. And so what are you supposed to do as an athletic trainer if someone comes up to you and says, you know what, my back's been hurting me for 7 months? You can do things, but what do you think it's going to take? It's going to take a lot of time, and it's not going to be an easy fix-all. So this leads me to kind of the question of why do musculoskeletal injuries go unreported? I'm sure many of you could give me some ideas. Many student athletes I've met with in the past have given me some ideas. So I'm going to talk about kind of what we did to try and get a better understanding of why do we have again, at the collegiate level too, particularly within the American Athletic Conference, we're probably all at the level where you at least have an athletic trainer that oversees your sport, correct? Maybe not all of you have an athletic trainer that exclusively works with your sport, but you should probably all have an athletic trainer that's assigned to your sport. I assume you all could tell me who your athletic trainer is, correct? Agreed? You could all also tell me probably who your team physician is. You would have access to, if you needed to see them, you have access where you could presumably say, hey, I want to see the team doc. They could set it up. And so there's different barriers that we're going to see at a middle school or high school than we might see at a Division I institution. So I wanted to look a little bit more about why do we see musculoskeletal injuries going unreported. I'm going to break these things into individual level experiences. So again, I can presume, and that's what I'm going to do today, that there's individual factors that may affect each of you differently than your peers, than your friends, your previous experiences. Some of you may have come from a high school that had an athletic trainer. If you were lucky, maybe a high school that had multiple athletic trainers. If you're really lucky, a high school that had multiple athletic trainers, or some kind of supervising physician that at least made his face known in case there was something that was needed. We also think that there might be some team level factors, right? So we talk a lot about culture this past few days, about what's the culture of the team, what's the vibe of the team, what's your obligation to that team, those coaches, what's their perceptions of the matter. And then I also think that there might be a few university level things. So whether it be the organization of the athletics department, whether it be funding restrictions, whether it be just the overall culture of the student athlete department at that institution, there's going to be some university level things that affect whether or not we disclose injuries. So we're going to talk a little bit about what affects each athlete differently. Before I get started, I want you guys to try and guess. Individually, what do you think some of the factors that could affect whether or not you're going to tell someone about an injury you might have? Boom. The way you got it. Excellent answer. And by that you mean? Oh yeah, we had a soccer player. I'm not going to, you probably heard about it. Tore their ACL jumping over a couch. Oh yeah, don't say what. It happens. You're like, oh, that could happen to anyone, right? I mean, come on, we all jump over couches. And so it took a minute for her to disclose said injury. It wasn't at UTSA, actually. I just remembered it was a different university, so I'm going to get them off the hook. But it definitely matters, right? Were you playing your sport, or were you otherwise engaged in physical activity of jumping over couches or running around, or say, I'm a skier, a ski bum. I'm pretty sure almost every Division I coach in the world would tell you you're not allowed to ski for the entirety of the time of being a student athlete, because the likelihood of you getting injured skiing, if you don't know what you're doing, 100%. The likelihood of getting hurt skiing, if you know what you're doing, about 97%. And so it doesn't go down that much. It's a dangerous sport, a lot going on. What else may affect whether or not you're going to tell someone? Correct. So your individual pain tolerance. How many of you have Stevens on your team where you're like, that guy's going to complain? I already know it. It's going to happen 100%. What now, Steven? No, that is not an ingrown toenail. That's just your toe. It's fine. We're good. Anything else? Oh, 100%. Your relationship with your athletic trainer, your perceptions of that person's ability potentially, right? If you think, hey, this is something that they could handle, or I don't know if this is something they could handle. Anything else you can think of? You said time? So seasonality, so where it is in the season, you mean? Okay, right. Oh, so if their office hours, so to say, are at a difficult time to get in, you're not going to make it. Oh, for sure. Anything else you can think of? I'll tell you my ideas then. One thing that I'm a firm believer in is that your attitude's about, one thing that we did is your attitude's about disclosing injuries. So again, this is part of the survey that we employed to the student athletes, and we just asked them about their feelings of reporting musculoskeletal injuries. Here on the left, you could see kind of negative emotions. On the right, you can see what would maybe associate as positive emotions. And we asked them just kind of put it where you're at, right? Do you think that it's brave or cowardly to tell someone that you've got a potential injury? Do you think is it prideful, shameful, harmful, beneficial, extremely difficult, or extremely easy, right? So again, this is probably going to be quite individual, right? Based on your previous experiences, based on your perceived interpretation of yourself, based on those around you, right? Have you had previous coaches? Have you had previous parents? I once had a kid I was going over. It was a lacrosse game. The kids were probably, 12 years old. The kid goes down like he got shot, and he's just screaming and yelling. So I'm like walking over there. I'm like, I think this is fine. Everyone's like, hurry. I'm like, I think I got this. And so I get there, and the kid, I'm like, what's going on, my guy? And he's like, I just don't want to play anymore. And I was like, cool. Do you want to get up? He's like, no. And I was like, all right, well, we got to get up. It's time. And he's like, can you just tell my dad I don't want to play anymore? And I was like, no, I can't. You can tell your dad you don't want to play anymore. He's like, I can't do that. I cannot do that. And so then he just stood up and walked over. Guess who his dad was? Absolutely, his dad was the coach. So there's no way out of it. That guy's got at least 7 more years of lacrosse in him. And so the way you're raised or what your perceptions are definitely going to play a role in your ability to report whether or not you have an injury. And I think that kid could be missing a leg, and his dad was pretty eager for him to continue. So it would take quite a bit to get him to stop. And so again, wherever you fall on this may play some role in where you're at. The next thing that I think may play a role is your identity as an athlete. I imagine most of you identify as a student athlete or just as an athlete in general. Presumably, yes. Is that a far stretch of the imagination? Most of you identify as an athlete. So again, this is a questionnaire called the Athlete Identity Questionnaire. So again, it kind of gauges how much of your life value is based on your identity as a student athlete. You can see some of those questions up there. Like again, my life revolves around sport participation. I spend more time thinking about sport than anything else. I've received encouragement from others for participating in sport. So again, your value you base on yourself is largely tied to your ability to play that sport. And like how you perceive people think the benefits of you or the best parts of you. There's another question not on here is like the best part of me is my ability to perform in my sport. So if that's how you feel and you feel strongly that way, what happens if you tell someone, well, that part of me is dead? So you can definitely see how that may affect your ability to disclose a musculoskeletal injury. Again, here's some more things we're talking about. This is what we would call a social norms inventory. So again, this is your perception of those around you, right? So it's based on, again, in your current activity or sporting environment, do most people, you think most people would or wouldn't disclose this injury? So again, if you have an injury that you're trying to debate, okay, do I tell someone about this? Do I not tell someone about this? You're going to think about what? Okay, my team has, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 20 to 100 other players. How many of them would disclose something like this? And that's going to be part of that value proposition of whether or not you're going to disclose that injury. The other thing you're thinking about, again, is that environment. Like schools like mine or the environment I'm in would want me to disclose something like this. We hear all the time in athletics about resources and resource allocation, and we don't have enough time for this, or we don't have enough time for that, or we don't have enough money for this, or we don't have enough money for that. And I think as athletics departments, we need to be very cautious of that because it's similar to, I grew up in a house where guess what you had to have if you were going to go to the doctor? My mom always would say what? Go ahead and guess the criteria of injury that was necessary to go to the doctor. Dying, literally. We have to be concerned for your life in order for you to go to a healthcare provider. Whereas I think someone said temperature. Yeah, my mom would have just said, I think you're all right. 110, I don't know how high it can get before you die. My mom would be like, put some ice on that. That'll be all right. So you're sweating it off. You're just sweating it off. You'll be all right. And so the only thing you would go to a healthcare provider in my family growing up for is if we thought, you know what, he might die. And even then it's like, I don't know, toss up. I think I went to a doctor's once in my adolescence. So again, if you're at a school though, and you're constantly hearing about resource allocation, okay, we got to prioritize these people for the doctor. We only have so many hours, or we only have so many resources. You got to be cautious because what are the student athletes hearing? You may be hearing, I don't know if they want me. The doctor's only here for an hour tonight. He already has to see 3 football players and 2 basketball players. Is it really going to be time for me to squeeze in there and get in there? So again, your perceptions of the social norms of where's your hierarchy, right? Depending on what sport you play, your perception of, okay, if I'm on the rifle team, I don't want to pick on you. But if I'm on the rifle team and I want to see the doctor, where's my perception of where the rifle team lies in that person's priorities? Because that may be a what am I saying? I'm stuck. My brain just stopped working. That might be a barrier, I think is what we call them. And so that might be a barrier to disclosure, is if you think that you're on one of these other teams where the doctor is like, I don't know, rifle, huh? I don't know if we need to see them today. Maybe next week if we need to. Next week if we need to. I don't know, maybe. And so wherever your perceived social norm landscape falls, again, it's going to be, again, if you think you should report those symptoms of a possible musculoskeletal injury to someone in authority is going to play a major role in whether or not you disclose those injuries. So again, we know that we got some type of injury. So if you have an injury, previous injuries may also play a role. How many of you have had an injury before? Oh, one not. So everyone almost. And again, I'm not saying anything crazy, right? You have a little sprained ankle, a little something. Your perceptions of how many of you think that was handled well? Your previous injury. I need more hands. Come on, athletic trainers are innately good people. We're trying hard. I'm getting a lot of this. I mean, that doesn't sound like you got 5-star service. And so that's the problem, right? So if you have an injury and you got a little of this after your injury, where's your motivation to go back for some more of that? It's pretty low. How many of you think have been misdiagnosed with something before? Where you went down like a rabbit hole and you're like, no, I got this. This is definitely it. U-turn, it's not it. Sorry. We thought it was it. We were pursuing a lead. Nope, it's not that. You can also get reactions from other people. I think there's a pretty big stigma out there from playing through that pain. Like I said, I can't tell you, I'm a very large sports fan. Like I've mentioned, there are a few teams that I follow. And there have been numerous times where I'm listening to a broadcast, and what are the broadcasters saying? Oh, he's been playing through pain. He's got these injuries. He was puking in the hotel till 5 a.m. last night, and look at him here. He's so strong, such a good guy. So again, if your perception is that others are going to see that as valiant or that you were pushing through and you're trying your best, there's no way you're going to go against that motivation unless there's something significant at role. And the other thing is whether you have experienced or feel of missed playing time. That's a pretty big factor, again, depending on your identity and how much you identify as being a student athlete. If there's that fear of missing playing time, it's going to play a role. So there are other things that may play unique factors applying to all members of that same team, right? So again, depending on how your athletic organization is structured, you may all have the same athletic trainer. How many of you think you love your athletic trainer? Like your team's athletic trainer is the GOAT of all athletic trainers, right? So a few of you are like, yeah, like we have it, like we have conquered the universe. Our athletic trainer is our person, that we're gonna ride together, we're gonna die together, we're gonna do it. And some of you like, what was her name again? I don't remember. And so again, some of that may be your experience, right? Whether you have someone who's been there for a long time, has a long tenure with the team, it's someone who's new, you don't have as many experiences. Maybe you're fortunate enough to get a beautiful GA that's been assigned to your team that has a relatively new landscape of the career. So again, there are certain factors that are going to affect the team. And we mentioned again kind of what that team impacts may be like in the world. So again, the coach, we talked about it in the panel. Some of you, we could probably agree, have varying perceptions of what your coach feels about injuries. We could agree? Is that somewhere, again, how much do you think your coach is going to be on your side or be in your corner? Again, you may be thinking back to, okay, what's the injury I have? Is my coach going to be like, yeah, that's something bad, we need to get that looked at? Or is my coach going to be, I don't know, I feel like you're soft? And so that's a really big thing that you got to be thinking about of the environment or that team culture from a standpoint, not only with yourself, but have you seen it with previous instances, right? Like maybe last week someone told coach that their ankle hurt and they got a little pizzazz, a little sass back and like, well, that's better than me. And so you're not gonna go back out of it. Your peers as well, right? The culture of the team, you may have, again, those people, whether they depend on you or whether just perceptions. A lot of it goes back to, again, if I've got 100 teammates, how many of them would be in my corner if I disclose this injury, and how many of them would be thinking about me in some negative way if I disclose this injury? You also have fans nowadays. I think we've mentioned it. I'm one of those fans. I've got a lot of opinions that no one asks for, but I share anyways. My Twitter's on fire constantly because I just feel a need to share my opinion with the world. I don't know why. I have like 4 followers. No one hears it. It never gets retweeted. It's just me in my own vacuum. Success doesn't happen in a vacuum, but my Twitter account does. It just exists. No one sees it. It's like a personal diary. But I've got a lot of opinions of what's going on in the world. And I think that's even getting worse and worse. In the transfer portal, you got people changing it up. You got a team you love. You got a jersey you just bought. You got to burn it. Just kidding. I would never. And so then you also got sponsors and NIL deals, right? So again, some of those may be heavily dependent on you actually being a student athlete, right? It's like, oh, you were a good athlete and you were playing, but now you're injured. Again, where does your value go? What's the value proposition of you being an injured student athlete? The other thing, maybe there may be factors associated at the university level, right? Allocated resources, proximity to those providers. Some institutions you're at, you have that physician's able to come in each night and they host hours. Some of you got to go to them or you got to go make an appointment. You got to go across town. Some of you, across town's not that far. Others across town is a long ways to go. They may have perceptions of insurance as well. That's a big implication we have as well, depending on your university's disposition to cover you, which also may go back to this rodeo of what was I doing when it happened, right? Can I justify, or again, is this something that was happening before I came to this institution or pre-existing injury that, again, do I feel like I'm going to have support of this university to get through this, or is this going to be something that I'm going to be on my own? The great news is, what can we do about it? The answer is, I'm really not sure. So I'm not even sure why you let me speak today. But I think I have a few ideas about what we can do about it. And I'd like to hear, we're going to have a couple minutes before those sweet, sweet box lunches, that maybe we can talk about what we can do about it. First thing we did is we asked. And so you got to ask questions even if you don't want to hear the answers. So again, we did a survey where we were asking each of the individual athletes who participated in this study about their perceptions related to injury disclosure, about norms, again, whether those be societal norms, team norms, university-based norms. What would the normal person, again, my peers around me, what would they think? We also tried to improve knowledge. Again, I think there's a lot of stigma around what are the types of injuries I should disclose and what are the types of injuries I shouldn't disclose, particularly when we get some of our younger student athletes who are coming into our program and they have a little bit of uncertainty as far as like, when do I go to the athletic trainer? When do I try and take care of it on my own? Am I burdening people? Am I not? And we also looked some at previous experience. Then we did some focus groups where we again got student athletes together on a team level, discussed with them again, what do you think are some of the things, some of the barriers, some of the perceptions of your teams, athletic training staff as well. We got together and talked to them about some of the barriers we see at our institution. We talked to some coaches who, as you can imagine, said they only encourage reporting injuries. They're 100% positive all the time. But is that true? Who knows? We also talked to the strength and conditioning staff. We identified a few areas of improvement. One of the areas of improvement that we found is that a lot of athletes that we were getting, again, this is particular to UTSA, may be from institutions or high schools that didn't necessarily have an athletic trainer, or maybe they played a sport in high school that didn't have great access to an athletic trainer. So they just really don't have a great idea of what an athletic trainer does, when they should tell that athletic trainer about an injury, when they shouldn't. Again, we have a pretty robust reporting. We use Whoop watches, we use Oura rings. We have a lot of studies going on of like daily check-ins. So we're fairly proactive, but I think that's new to a lot of people. If you went to a high school and there's 600 student athletes, maybe if you're at a big high school, maybe more, and you have like one athletic trainer, what's that athletic trainer going to do for the most part? Like someone's dying on a field somewhere, they're going to help them. Someone tears their ACL, they're going to tell them, yeah, you need to go to the doctor. Maybe they're going to tape a few guys before a game. Like there's only so much you can do. So you may not understand now if you're on a women's basketball team and the roster size is 15 or below and you have an athletic trainer now, it's like, well, what does this person do? How much more involved in my life can this person be? And how involved in my life does this person want to be? And what we also realized, again, is we needed some kind of pathway for a second opinion, because there were so many negative preconceptions, whether it be one teammate had a bad experience with their student athletic trainer or with a physician, or their perception was out, and we had lost faith, basically, right? We had lost confidence in an athletic trainer because one bad diagnosis or one misdiagnosis led the entire team to believe that that athletic trainer was incapable of any positive avenue. So what we found is we needed some kind of mentorship within our athletic training department where we could have more senior athletic trainers help out the more junior athletic trainers. And if a student athlete ever felt like, hey, I'm not trying to be negative, I'm not trying to be that person, but I would love it if someone else came over and also took a look, and maybe you guys could powwow on this one and come together and see what you think. And then we also wanted to see how much could we educate about the long-term perspective from a standpoint, again, if it's a value proposition of if we help someone try and understand, okay, you have an injury and right now to some degree you can play through it. What if in a month it becomes something that you can't play through it? And again, we talk about certain sports, a lot of sports you're building, right? So if you're talking about the start of the season, you have some of these smaller meets or some of these smaller performances, whatever it is, and you're building to conference championships, you're building to national tournaments. Where do we think about, okay, how do we get people in the preseason? Again, if you can walk with me for a second, about 65% of injuries happen in the preseason. And so how do we get people to realize, like, okay, we're in the preseason right now. We've got months till our tournament. How are we going to make sure when we get to the tournament, you're as healthy as possible? And then we asked again, These are the people I should thank. Rody Moss is a legend, the man, the myth, the legend at UTSA. He's one of the head athletic trainers and helped us out. Marie as well. And then Shelby, who decided, she was my partner in crime on this study, but she decided to schedule a conference at the exact same time as we were going to present here. So she left me here alone. And then, yeah, lastly, if you have any questions, concerns, conspiracy theories you want to discuss, if you think it was interesting that we went to the moon and didn't get out, but just circled around and came back, I'm always here to discuss such things. Yes?
All right, I want to see your take on this.
Let's hear it.
Yeah,
I'm going to give it.
all right, because, so for an athletic trainer, I injured myself, actually I hurt my little Achilles,
Yeah.
even for me, but I consulted with a friend who had the same thing, so I got some advice. But then I went to my real friend on chat.
Yes.
My doctor.
Hear it.
And that's where I got diagnosed.
Preach.
So do I need, so how many times do you see a student athlete get self-diagnosed by
Oh, I don't even know if it's so much chat. I think there is a lot like the friends, right? Like it is the like, oh, I had that same thing happen to me my junior year, or this is what happened to me my freshman year. And again, the symptoms are similar or the perception of those symptoms. So again, you almost have student athletes, again, to a good extent, telling them like, this is what you got to do. Like I'm going to give you some good, these are exercises you should do. This is what I've been doing, which is beneficial and helpful. But I think if you loop someone else into that conversation, like an athletic trainer, strength and conditioning staff, you can make sure for one that it's right, but then also they're in the same network, right? They know to watch. There are things that you're going to look for as an athletic trainer, watch behaviors, things like that you can observe. And I think just having people involved. But yes, I would say maybe chat a little bit. But the thing I think I see the most of, if it's like buddies talking to each other about, hey, this is what you got to do. This is how you got to get your body right. This is what I did. This is because, again, they don't want to disclose. They have a lot, and we've done previous studies about peer mentoring or how much student athletes trust their friends compared to, which is probably rightfully so. But again, they're going to go to all of their teammates first, and does anyone have an idea of what I should do or how I should do it or how I could take care of this versus maybe, again, looping in some other people.
Yeah, I just had a question. What are your thoughts on like student trainers? Because like being a big sport like football, we're blessed to have like 2 full-time good trainers that help us out. But those other smaller, what? I just mean like the older, more well-respected trainers than the
no, you're right. You're
than
correct.
the 20-year-old students that just got out of college. That's what I meant.
That is a correct observation.
Yeah.
I think that what I would say with the role of how you can help student athletic trainers would be your willingness to involve them in the process. Because again, there are good athletic trainers and there are bad athletic trainers. And I bet most of us would argue that experience is the difference of what have you seen, how many times have you seen it, what does it look like, what does it manifest. And as a student athletic trainer, I think there's a real hesitancy from a standpoint of like, I'm going to jump in on this or I'm going to try and help out with this. So as a student athlete, I would say, or if there's like, for instance, GAs or interns are very common in the athletic training world, or maybe you have, if you're in a smaller sport, you may even have an intern assigned to your sport. Incorporating them in the process as far as like, hey, like I wouldn't mind if we got one of these good athletic trainers in the room, but like maybe you could join as well and you can learn at the same time, right? One thing mentorship is really big in not only athletic training, but again, within the entire medical training that I think but it may be an easier thing if you don't want to go to the head trainer. You could talk to the student athletic trainer, say, this is what's going on. Do you have any thoughts for me? They could talk to the trainer, and it may be a little bit of, again, an easier platform to get to one of those good trainers out there. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, not much a question, but more just like a statement.
Okay, let's hear it.
I was a swimmer for 4 years, and my last year, I wouldn't wait like a long time, maybe a couple days, and I'd go in and I'd be like, oh, my knee hurts or my shoulder hurts, my ankle, and my trainer, Dalton, would always tell me that it was tendinitis. Like every time I went in, he'd go,
ice.
Yeah, he'd go, it's tendinitis, just ice it and, rest. And I was like, well, I can't rest. But more just like a statement, like going off of, being misdiagnosed or not wanting to go in. Like it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just not going to go in because like he's going to tell me it's tendinitis. So just adding
I
on to
hear
that.
you. And what I would say to that, for all athletic trainers in the world and athletes in the world as well, when we're thinking about overuse injuries, they're the most difficult things to treat. But what everyone always goes to is rest. But again, there are three things you can do. You can rest, or you can improve that tissue's capacity to heal faster. And I think athletic trainers are sleeping on that. And so what are we going to do? You have tendonitis, yes. Resting would be optimal, yes. It would be great. We can't do that. So again, where do we look for, and what I would seek you, again, you student athletes to push and advocate for yourselves is, what can we do to make this thing heal faster? Because I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to show up for treatment. You can, again, things to make it heal faster. You can also improve that tissue's capacity to withstand stress. So why is it that you're getting tendonitis all the time? Because those little baby tendons can't handle it. And so you got to get big buff tendons. And how do you get big buff tendons? You got to load those, which is ironic and counterintuitive because you're telling me that overuse is the problem. And so I think you've got to advocate for yourselves, and you've got to demand more of them. You don't take rest for an answer. You tell them, we're not going to rest, honey, because I got places to be, I got people to impress, and it's your job to make me feel better. So you better think quick about how you're going to make me feel better, because I'm going to be here tomorrow, and I'm going to be here for an hour, and I need you to have something ready for me. So I think there's a little bit of advocacy that needs to happen from a standpoint. You may need to light a little fire under them and tell them, great idea with the rest. I'm going to come back tomorrow for a better idea about how we're going to make this thing heal a little bit faster. Light up one of these lasers, get something going, because we're going to make this happen together. And so I think you may need to advocate for yourself a little bit and understanding that, again, it's not just rest. It's also healing that tissue. And they've got a role and they've got a responsibility to help you heal that tissue.
Okay, one of my questions. So I'm one of those people who I wait like 2 months to go to the doctor. Yeah, classic. But when I go to the doctor, then they can't replicate the pain I'm having, or the day I show up, all of a sudden pain's gone. Right. So doctor's like, I don't know that anything's wrong with you. Come back in a couple weeks if you're still having the pain.
Okay.
How do you build that trust in wanting to go back then? Because what if I just go back again and there's no pain again? Like I feel like I lose trust.
Oh, that is absolutely a great question. And I would say that, so hard, so many thoughts, and I only have 130 characters. I got to tell you that any physician, doctor, or healthcare provider that's not ready to listen and be an instant advocate is the wrong one for you. So if you ever go to a healthcare provider and you leave paying nothing, that's like going to a movie and they say, you know what, you saw the title, walk out. You've seen enough. And so you've got to advocate for yourself, and you've got to know that that's not the norm. If your healthcare provider can't listen to you, can't understand what's going on, they're just not good enough. And so that's the endemic of the world, is there's not enough people willing to be good at their job for the jobs that we have out there. So again, my advice to you would be, if you go to a healthcare provider and they tell you, oh, there's nothing I can do, or there's nothing this could be, or they leave you empty-handed with just a helpful come back in a few weeks, and they're not telling you about, oh, here's some exercises, here's some things that could be going on long-term, how are we going to prevent this from coming back, and you don't get your 15 minutes worth, that's the last time you see that provider. Don't go back there in 3 weeks when it hurts again. Go back somewhere else. You going? Okay. Garrett, I'm ready for the lunch anyways.
My question kind of goes off of her question. How do you navigate that as like a student athlete where your athletic trainer is making your appointments for you or selecting the doctor that you're seeing and being like, maybe this doctor isn't helping me, like
Demand more.
Nag more.
You have to advocate for yourself. And it is a hard world, but it is probably the best lesson you could learn in your life, is you are the only person who will advocate for you, and you've got to advocate for yourself. So you tell them you're seeing someone else tomorrow, and they better set it up.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, like, how, like, sometimes in the training room, I think I see, like, where trainers and athletes, like, build, like, trust. But sometimes it could get in the way of, like, being unprofessional to a point where, like, trainers know, like, more of the students, like the students' business than they should, and sometimes that like gets like spread around. So how do you like manage that? How do you manage that, or how do you like keep that under wraps?
How do I? I don't tell anyone anything. How should you? I think it's very important to be mindful of what you're telling your athletic trainer and when you're telling them, and then also making it known, like, who's this conversation for? Because, again, there's a level of accountability. If you hear, again, oh my gosh, you told so-and-so about this, like we had a conversation, they're a healthcare provider, they're obligated to, again, if there's certain mandatory reporting events, yes. But aside from that, you set the standard expectation up front. I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this. I'm not telling the world this, and making sure you hold them to that standard. I'm done.
So much. All right, everybody. Those sweet, sweet box lunches are out there waiting. But before we all charge to the table, just a few things to wrap up. First of all, I want to let you know that those box lunches, those are grab and go. So it's not like you're expected to, eat it real quick before you get on the bus. You can eat on the bus. Same plan as yesterday. For those of you that have indicated dietary restrictions, those specially labeled items are down at the far end of the counter. Beverages are in here, including in the barrel, iced water, and canned beverages. So that'll get you everything that you need to have something of substance as you go. Our goal, because we've got some folks that have some flights coming up here really quick, the bus has to leave at 11:30. We got to be on the bus, so the bus departs at 11:30. So I really want to stress that. We'll give you time here. You'll have about 20 minutes to turn everything around. Two other things, two other requests real quick. Just to assist us, there's another event in this room later today. So if you can just assist us by throwing away the trash that is on your table, leave the centerpieces. President's office is expecting to get those back. I don't need that conversation on Monday morning. But if you can get all the rest of your materials and make sure those tables are clean, that will really help us out as we turn around the room this afternoon. The second thing is I just want to let everybody know that at some point in the next, couple of weeks, you are probably going to get a request to fill out a survey about this event. And we'd really value your frank feedback. What worked, what didn't, how can we make this even better next year? So with that having been said, I have one last thank you that I need to offer before we wrap this up, and that is a thank you to all of you for being here with us over these last few days. This has been a blast of an event, and we've so enjoyed the time with you, and we've so valued having the opportunity to host you here at Wichita State. So thank you very much. I hope many of us will see next year when we are at Charlotte for 2027. Thank you all.